So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto awaken with the true prince of Olympus? Here is short summary. The fourth shinobi war has ended and peace is achieved for our favorite hero. So how is he going to take it when he finds out his parents are alive, and they are the king and queen of the Greek gods? Join our favorite knucklehead on his next great adventure in a new world and new threats. But before we start, if you want more amazing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, if possible, share this video with your friends. Now, without wasting any more time, let's begin the story. You are an bastard, you know that? A woman said with her arms crossed under her breasts. The woman that said that was Hera, the goddess of marriage. She had on her white toga that most people would see her in pictures. Her hair was bright red that made her more exotic looking, and the crown that was on her head showed her position in power. Now she wasn't as big-breasted as the goddess of love, but she didn't envy, as hers were the perfect size for her body. A moderate C cup. She was also wearing her Greek sandals. Her face usually looking like a beauty that most men would fall for, like her husband. Though right now her face was impassive, as her eyes showed sadness, anger, but most of all disappointment. Now, why was she disappointed? Well, it was because she found out that Zeus has cheated on her. Again. She shouldn't have been surprised, really. She had hoped that he would have kept it in his pants. This time anyways, after he made that ridiculous law on not having any more demigods being born. Yet, here they were looking at the dying form of Talia Grace. Zeus just turned his daughter and her stepdaughter into a tree with the power that would protect Camp Half-Blood. Though Hera didn't see that. All she saw was a child born from another woman that her husband had laid with. Hera, a man said. Save it, Zeus, I don't want to hear your pathetic excuses. Hera spat. She turned around and started to walk away when a hand grabbed her wrist gently. She looked over her shoulder, her eyes still held the emotions she felt. The man that had stopped the queen of Olympus was none other than the king himself, Zeus, the king of the gods and the god of thunder. He wore his white toga with a golden belt around his waist with his golden sandals on. He also had somewhat long white hair that went a little past his ears, and he also had a great beard that was well kept. Usually though he would look like some kind of businessman most of the time. Though since he is in his true form he looked like a true Greek from back then. Now usually Zeus would look like an arrogant and prideful man. That wasn't the case at the moment. Right now, Zeus looked like a man in distraught. In his head he really couldn't blame his wife anger at him. He has done this for thousands of years to her. All the women that he had cheated with her with, and all the demigods that were born from his blood. It was because of him that people saw her as the goddess that hated demigods. Hera just narrowed her eyes as she pulled her wrist away from Zeus, as she took his silence as a sign that he didn't have anything more to say. As she left the Zeus's temple, she leaned against one of the pillars and closed her eyes shut as the tears threatened to spill from them. I see that my brother has done you wrong again, sister, said a woman in a soft, kind voice. Hera opened her eyes to see that it was Hestia, the goddess of hearth and architecture. She was wearing a brown robe that covered most of her body and had a hood on her head. Though she had gold smoke faintly coming out of her robes. Her hair was black, as her bangs only showed her color. Her skin showed it as a good tan color from what her slender arms showed. Yes, sister, he has done me wrong again. I shouldn't be surprised though. He really couldn't keep it in his pants. Hera said bitterly as she stood up and fixed her robes. Yes, he couldn't. I'm guessing you want to be alone? Hestia asked politely. Please. I will talk to you more when I feel somewhat more calm. Hestia nodded and left in a golden smoke. Hera watched her leave till she disappeared completely. Most likely going to tend her fire like usual. Hera gave a sigh as she looked out into the architecture that made up Mount Olympus. Even after living in it for thousands of years, the scenery still took her breath away on some days when the sun hits just right and cast a magnificent glow over the city. Right now even, the sun gave the city of bronze a great glow, causing the city to just look as though it was just built. Though the moment did not last, as she felt the presence of her husband walking up to her. Please, Zeus, for the last time just leave me alone, Hera said to him without turning around. Her gaze still on the city. She didn't expect the name that came out of his mouth though. Kushina. Hera turned her head slightly. Her eyes slightly looking at him. She thought she would see the Greek god, but instead her heart skipped a beat when she saw the man that she fell in love with. She turned around to fully see the man before him. The man standing behind her was a blonde hair man that had spiky hair that even went down the side of his head. His face and eyes were soft but still held the experience from wars that he fought in. He had the body of a swimmer that wasn't over-muscled like most Greek gods were. Instead, from the black skin-tight shirt, it showed that he was proportioned just right and looked as though they were chiseled to perfection. He was also wearing a green vest with multiple pockets on it. Over the vest he was wearing a white coat that went just above his ankles that had flames on the bottom of it, and on the back had the kanji of fourth fire shadow. She looked lower to see the black shinobi pants and black sandals with the pouch strapped to his right leg. This was the man that renewed her love for her husband. This was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage for Konoha. Hera's form soon changed to a woman with long crimson-red hair that went past her waist. Her heart-shaped face and purple eyes were something Minato loved greatly and would for hours just gaze into them with all the love he had for her. Her clothes soon changed into a simple kunoichi battle robe that had the sleeves cut off and had a sash wrapped around her waist to secure it. Underneath her robe was a mesh shirt with some metal plate covering her more vulnerable areas on her body. She was also wearing some shorts that had metal plates to cover her private parts, and she had on black shinobi sandals. This was the wife of Minato, Kushina Uzumaki, the red habanero of death. The both of them stayed silent as they looked at each other. The memories of their past lives started to flash before their eyes. You see, Hera and Zeus decided that after a century's worth of fighting each other, they had the idea of going together as mortals in a different dimension to see if their love was still there. They didn't realize that time flowed slower in that dimension, so it wasn't as technology advanced as they were, but that didn't matter to them. They didn't tell anyone that they were separating their mortal halves for the intervention. That really wouldn't sit well with the rest of the council, since it did affect their decision-making in the end. Who knew that the separation did more good for the world when they left? Back on track, Zeus and Hera asked the primordial gods and one goddess of magic, Hecate, for help, and they were able to travel to the other dimension and have a body of their own that had memories implanted to the people of that world, so no one would question two people just randomly showing up one day. When they arrived, they ended up in Konohagakure, or the village hidden in the leaves. Their bodies somehow gained the ability to use that dimension's power called Chakra. Chakra was the combination of the physical and spiritual halves of the soul coming together, which gave them the abilities to bend the elements to their will. Now when the two of them went to join the village, they also became shinobi of the village. Now since Zeus was also the god of drama, he got more into his mortal persona to the point that he forgot he was pretending at all and felt like he lived there his whole life. Hera, for her part, didn't get as enthusiastic at first like her husband, but she started to love the place they were in, which also caused her love for her husband to blossom and grow to new heights. Soon the two of them remarried in the village, which brought out the passions that each other had during the honeymoon, which also caused the village to make Minato and Kushina have vacation outside of the village, since their screams of passion and love could have been heard throughout the village. Coincidentally, it also led to his nickname Konoha's Yellow Flash. Yes, the mighty technique was made because he was running away from his wife when she was angry at him for interrupting her eating time with ramen on their honeymoon. Time passed though as the two continued to stay in the village, with the love of each other just continued to grow. Their godly halves almost forgotten from their minds. They thought they could just stay like this for the rest of their life and have a child together for once. One day though, they were visited by the fates. They had a message for them saying that the longer they stayed here and away from their godly halves, terrible thing will befall upon them. They didn't listen though, as they thought they could stop anything that could befall on them. The fates gave their warning and left. They thought that everything would be fine after that. But they were wrong. Minato, Zeus, where did we go wrong? Hera, Kushina asked quietly as she stopped her train of thought of memory lane. I blame the fates, Zeus said as he walked towards his wife slowly. She didn't move away from him. When he was just in front of her, he wrapped his arms around her. She didn't fight him to stop, she just let him. Her tears forming in her eyes as she laid her head against his chest. I miss him, I know, I do too. The both of them stayed there in silence as they both thought about their son. Their natural-born son, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Hera bore their son the traditional way. She may have hated the things that came with being pregnant, but she never regretted. Though she did enjoy crushing her husband's hand and cursing him for making her feel all the pain she was in. When she held her son in her arms as he slept, her smile couldn't have been bigger, and Minato also had a look of joy at seeing their son being born into the world. Though the happiness didn't last long, as at that very night a monster with the power to rival a titan attacked the village. Hera shook her head at the memory. My baby boy, dead, she said to herself before the anger took over herself. He would still be alive, it wasn't for you. I know it's my fault, you damn right it is. If you didn't use him as a sacrifice, he would still be with us. She yelled louder as she started hitting him, her tears flowing down her face. I know. I shouldn't have, Zeus said quietly as he remembered what happened after their son was born. You see, Naruto was used as a holder for the beast that was attacking the village. Zeus, in his all arrogance, he thought that he could hold off the beast and seal it in their son and still live through that. The battle was great even with the help of Hera, but it wasn't enough. With their last attempt, they used a seal to bind the beast to their son's soul. It came with a heavy price though. It cost both Zeus's and Hera's mortal life fighting the beast. Now since their mortal halves died, their memories and original souls returned to their godly halves as their mortal bodies, souls, went to that world's underworld, and Minatos was stuck in that world's death god belly in endless torment for all eternity. When they merged back to their godly forms, they tried to return to the dimension so they could retrieve their son so they could raise him in their home dimension. When they got there in different bodies, they asked around for any information on where their baby boy was. The responses were not what they wanted to hear. They listened to various people say that the demon was dead. Those people were met with the righteous fury of a parent. Others say that the baby was killed during the attack after the beast disappeared. A couple of people actually didn't insult their baby and said that a baby was buried near 2 unmarked graves. When they heard that, they quickly went to the Hokage at the time to get the location of that grave. After talking, more demanding the Hokage to tell them where the grave was located, the couple quickly went to the grave, and what they found nearly broke them. They say a small tombstone that read, Naruto Uzumaki, a born hero, son of the 2 greatest families. After reading that, Hera and Zeus were never the same. Zeus tried to mask his pain with a tough act, but it didn't help much. His eyes showed great sadness and grief. He couldn't get rid of the feeling of his son's death. Hera didn't fare any better. She locked herself in her temple and cried for weeks for her dead son. She didn't leave her temple other than checking her domain very quickly. It took them centuries, but they dulled their pain. Though the love and pain they had for their child would never leave them. So they swore on the sticks that they would never return to that dimension. Coming back to reality, Zeus changed back to his Greek form as Hera was starting to break some of his ribs from her continued assault on him. Hera also changed back to her Greek form as Zeus pushed her back some to stop her and heal some of his injuries. She glared at him as the tears continued to flow down her face. She angrily removed his hands from her shoulders. Hera, please, Zeus was about to say before the place shook violently. Zeus's eyes widened as so did Hera's. They knew what this meant. Gather the council, Zeus said as his eyes hardened as he summoned his master bolt. Hera wiped her eyes from the tears as she nodded and quickly left. Olympus throne room. Zeus was the first to reach the throne. He took his seat that was in the middle of all the other chairs that surrounded it. His wives to left. It wasn't as massive as his, but it was still larger than the other gods' thrones. He was looking at the giant Greek clock that also used to see what was happening in the mortal world. He saw the hands on it spinning around rapidly, and Zeus just narrowed his eyes at the sight. He really hoped that wasn't the case. The throne room's doors swung open as 11 other people came in, all looking curiously at what was that shook Olympus. Though Hera just looked uncaring as she would usually around the other gods. The first person that entered the room was Poseidon, the god of the seas. He had a somewhat of a mix between green and blue hair and beard. He wore a sea-green robes with a bronze tunic on top of it. In his left hand he held his trident that was taller than him slightly. He was also finishing drying off himself as he just got back from swimming in the ocean with a group of Atlanteans. The person next to Poseidon was Hades, the god of the underworld. Right now he looked more like a cartoon character as he had gray skin and blue flames on his head as his hair. He had on a black robe and had some smoke coming from the bottom of his robe. After Hades went to his seat, Demeter, the goddess of agriculture and nature, came in. She was wearing more of a modern-day look as she doesn't like the toga much. It revealed too much in her opinion. She was wearing a black jacket with a brown tank top underneath and some blue jeans with black toms. Behind Demeter was Athena, the goddess of wisdom. She was wearing a silver robe while wearing a bronze breastplate armor. She was also had a gold helmet on with pictures of Sphinx on it. In her hands was a spear with a slight silver glow coming off it. Though she was also walking around with a book in her hand and was reading it casually as she was walking to her throne. Surprisingly, she didn't walk into anyone as she was reading. Then a bright yellow glow filled the room as Apollo, the god of medicine in the sun, was walking in with a casual smile. Now he was wearing a casual business suit with a stethoscope around his neck. His tie long gone and the top of his shirt was open. Next to him was a scowling woman that looked like as though she didn't want to be here. This was the twin brother of Apollo, Artemis, the goddess of the hunt and moon. She was wearing a simple gray robe with her hood up on the moment. It covered her black hair. She had her bow on her back with a quiver full of her silver arrows and had simple bronze armor on. She looked ready to shoot an arrow where the sun don't shine to her twin brother. Behind the twins that was entering was a big burly man with golden war armor on. He had his helmet in one hand as a sword was strapped to his hip. He also looked like as though he was on some major steroids. This was Aries, the god of war. Enough said. Coming up behind him was Aphrodite, the goddess of love. She looked like as though she came out of the makeup trailer from a movie. Her hair was up and styled to accent her face as she was wearing a pink robe as small doves were floating around her head. She was currently looking into a mirror apply tick as she was walking in. The person that came in after her was Hephaestus, the god of fire and the forge. He is also the blacksmith for the gods. Now he wasn't normal looking like the rest of the Olympians, and that would be because of his mother Hera herself. There was this whole thing of her throwing him off the mountain of Olympus for being too lame. Now he was wearing a blacksmith apron on with his belt full of magical tools. He had a welder's mask on his head with its mask lifted up so he could see. Next to Hephaestus was either one of the more annoying gods or one of the most helpful gods was Hermes himself, the god's messenger. He had on his magical shoes with the wings on his ankles and a white toga with a gold rope around his waist. He had his scroll and cell phone in each hand. His staff was strapped to his back as he was talking on his phone while looking at the scroll. He was also just casually floating into the room. The last person that came into the room was Dionysus, the god of wine. Now he was more of a chubby man, but it still showed that he had some muscle on him from his physique. He had on a golden leaf crown on his head as he was wearing his purple robes with a goblet in one hand that was full of Pepsi. After the last god entered the room, all of them took their respected seats in the throne room. Every god besides Zeus and Hera were all murmuring to one another on what caused the shake to the mountain. Though the twin were more arguing on an age-old argument on who is the older sibling, and Hermes was more talking about business with his messenger helpers over the phone. Zeus, Hades and Poseidon were all staring at one another with a small glare as the three of them were not on the best of terms ever since Zeus made a stupid law. "Brother, you have called us into council. Would it have anything to do with that tremor that was felt on the mountain?" Poseidon asked. "Yes it does, Poseidon," Zeus replied. "Please tell me it wasn't your dumbass that caused it," Hades said with a smile that showed his yellow sharp teeth. "No, you underworld bastard," Zeus said with gritted teeth. Hades just smirked at that. It actually was caused by a human that is fighting on even terms with a primordial god. The room went silent when Zeus said that. All the gods were processing the info that was given. Was it really possible? A demigod that is on par with a primordial? It just didn't seem possible. Though the first one to break the silence in the room was Aries, he had on bloodthirsty smile. "I want to fight this person," Aries said. "Of course you would, you bloodthirsty beast." Airtimes with sarcasm heavy in her voice. "Bah. You just say that because you're mad that we couldn't finish our spar?" "Spar." Artemis narrowed her eyes at first before smirking and crossing her arms under her chest. "Ah, the spar, though I don't even remember you even being that much of a challenge," Artemis said with a smug-looking face. Aries growled as some of his power started to flow out of him. "Do you want to go?" Aries asked as he was slowly drawing his sword. "Anytime you want, you disgusting man," Artemis said as she was already twirling her hunting knives in her hands. "Geez little sis, calm your small butt," her brother said to her casually. "Listen to your older brother."
"For the last time, I am older than you," Artemis yelled at her brother.
Apollo just waved her off as she was growling at him. Ares huffed as he leaned back in his throne when he saw the two siblings arguing. "Silence," Zeus yelled out as thunder clapped the sky. All the gods then became silent. Zeus nodded as he went to the center of the throne room. He scanned the room to make sure that they were all paying attention. He noticed that Hestia was also in the room but was leaning against the wall near the door. She gave him a small smile and a two-finger salute as he gave her a small nod of acknowledgement. "Now Iris, show us where the power is coming from," Zeus said. He knew that Iris, the goddess of rainbows, heard him. A golden mist started to come out of the Greek clock and started to show a scene with the skies all black and the ground was littered with craters. Everyone was looking closely at the scene in front of them. The scene showed a woman that was floating in the air. It caused Hera and Zeus to freeze. "So she has returned," Zeus quietly. The mist showed a woman with long silver hair that was long enough to touch the ground. She had two brown horns on top of her head. Her skin was as pale as the moon, something that Artemis kind of approved. She was wearing a high-collared kimono that was transitioning every time she was in a different area. The woman had 3 eyes open. Yes, that's right, 3. 2 eyes that were on her face were pale white. The veins around her eyes were bulging while her third eye was red with rings and comma-looking things on each of the rings. This woman was Kaguya Oitsuki. "Who is that?" Athena asked. "Is she the one that caused the tremor?" "No, that is Kaguya Oitsuki, the rabbit goddess of a different dimension," Zeus said grimly. "Wait. What do you mean different dimension?" "It's just as Zeus said, she's not from our dimension," Hera said with a cold voice. "She was one human before she ate a fruit from the world tree that granted her power as such as Chaos herself." Zeus's eyes hardened as the rest of the gods and goddesses' eyes widened. At first she was fine, but soon she started to go mad with power and formed a god complex, believing that nothing can stop her. All the gods went silent at that. Not even the war-hungry Ares didn't say anything on wanting to fight her. He knew better than fighting a primordial god. Well, most of the time anyways. Zeus told Iris to spread the mist to cover the room and to make sure that they couldn't be seen so they can see better. When the mist finished spreading throughout the room, all of them looked at the scene as they saw a giant tree in the distance with white things hanging from the branches. A bright flash of yellow got the attention of the gods. They then saw Kaguya's body fly through the air as the sound barrier was broken as her body flew. Though Hera and Zeus's eyes widened at not Kaguya's body flying but the flash itself. "ZZ Zeus, was that?" Hera asked with a shaky voice. "No one could have learned that unless they have our blood," Zeus said as he was looking for the person that caused the flash. Everyone turned their head when someone spoke. "That's it. No more holding back, you." The person that said that was floating in the air with a golden aura around him. He had long spiky blonde hair. His face had 3 thick lines on his face. He was also wearing a golden flaming cloak that had tribal markings on it. Underneath the cloak, he was wearing a black shirt that had a spiral at the bottom of it. It looked like as though his pants were also connected to the shirt, making it look like a one piece with a black line that went down the pants legs and connected to his sandals. Most of the gods looked curious at the man that said that. Though Zeus and Hera had different reactions. Zeus had dropped his master bolt to the ground as he saw the similar hairstyle he had when he was Monado. The cloak even looked similar as well. As for Hera, she had her hands to her mouth as she looked at the face. The eyes weren't her mortal eyes as they were yellow that had a cross in them, but the face was the perfect mixture of Kushina's and Monado's faces. "It can't be," Hera said with a quiet shaky voice. She quickly looked at Zeus with tiny hope in her eyes. "Is that N?" "We can't be sure, Hera," Zeus said equally as quiet as he cut her off. He went to hold her and still her body. The other gods didn't miss the interaction that their queen and king were having. As surprised as they were, they didn't say anything as they went back looking at the man in the air. They say a purple-looking thing that looked like a human in flaming armor coming to the man that reminded them of Apollo. "Really, you say that to her after you just punched her?" The purple thing said. "You are and always will be the dope and an idiot. Why didn't you continue your attack?" "Oi. You Sasuke." The other person responded. "At least I'm not the one that is wearing a massive chakra armor that is like 300 times bigger than me." "Oh no, you are just the one that has a chakra cloak that just covers their whole body and doesn't really out the almost infinite chakra reserves you have or have damage done to them." "Hey, you do too, you know. Yet I'm the one that doesn't keep wasting chakra with it constantly on. Honestly, haven't you noticed that, you gigantic moron?" Sasuke asked him in an annoyed tone as he powered down his purple armor to reveal a man with black hair. He had a gray high-collared short-sleeved shirt. He had a purple rope belt on that held the purple sash. Underneath the sash was his black pants and black sandals. "Excuse me, Teme. I think you forgot that we have been fighting her non-stop for 2 days without rest." The other gods looked somewhat impressed at that. "It is a miracle that you haven't died from your stupidity," Sasuke said with a shake of his head. Sasuke looked to where Kaguya's body was. "Oi, you want to go?" The other guy asked with a raised fist. Really, you want to fight against each other at a time like this? Sasuke asked with his arms crossed in front of him. You know they argue like Zeus and Poseidon do, Hades commented. Ares nodded in agreement. Zeus ignored them and Poseidon glared at them. Hera thought she heard Minado's voice from the other man. It just raised the hope in her that it might be their dead son. Though if it is her son, oh, there will be many questions that will need to be answered and the fury of a mother will be used on all to get them. Sasuke, I'm going to need some time to charge up my next attack. You think you can give me about 10 seconds against her? Are you a ramen-eating addict that needs to get help? Just answer the ing question, you asshole. Also, I feel Sakura-chan is about to meet up with us. The golden man said as 9 golden hands came out of his back. HN, was Sasuke's response as his armor started to form around him again. Fine Teme. I'll take that as a yes. To your left, Sasuke said as he jumped to the side as his armor finished forming. What Sasuke said next made the king's and queen's eyes widen and their heart fill with renewed hope. Naruto, start forming your attack. Sasuke yelled as he disappeared with speed that the gods themselves could barely keep up with. Soon shockwaves could be heard when the two people started to fight. Naruto nodded as he closed his eyes as he started to concentrate. Soon 9 black orbs were starting to form in each hand. Naruto had to make sure that ratio was correct when doing this, hence the reason for Sasuke to give him cover. He also was making a golden orb in each of his hands. So he has completed it, said Zeus with a proud smile on his face. Naruto didn't stop there though. Soon blades started to form around each of the orbs while in his hands he started to make smaller orbs around it. Father, what is that he is making? Aries said as he is starting to feel pumped up from the action that he could feel that was about to go down. That is the Rasengan. I can't believe that he completed it. Zeus said as he watched Naruto finish his technique. It is an attack that both grinds and drills anything in its way. Though I never did get to finish it when I first created it. Athena looked intrigued at the attack. But then remembered what he said at the last part. What do you mean that it is incomplete and you created it? Watch. Was Zeus's only response. All the gods watch as Naruto finished his technique. The 9 arms raised high into the air, each blade had different color blades around it. While his hand it looked like he had a mini planet with miniature moons that orbited round the big Rasengan. Naruto then spotted the blurs that were Sasuke and Kaguya in the air. Though Naruto could see them better as Kaguya had Sasuke by the throat in her hand as her other hand something was slowly coming out of her. Sasuke gripped her hand as to try and loosen her grip from his neck. Naruto took a deep breath. Sasuke. Naruto yelled as he disappeared in a flash of yellow. Sasuke opened his eyes as they transformed from purple to red with a vortex-looking pupils. Sasuke's body was soon absorbed into a mini vortex that appeared in the center of his body. Kaguya's eyes narrowed at that before Naruto just appeared in front of her with a shit-eating grin and thrusted all of his hands at Kaguya. Naruto quickly flashed away as his attacks all started to implode on each other, causing a white dome to engulf her body. The dome soon expanded as the elements were all being absorbed into the dome. When the dome disappeared, there wasn't a body that could be found. Ares and Hermes whistled at the destruction. Dom. Can I fight him? Ares asked. All the gods looked him as though he was crazy. He looked at them. What? The gods shook their heads as they all looked back at what Naruto and Sasuke are going to do next. Zeus was stunned at the destructive power that Naruto just used. He couldn't imagine the Rasengan could become that destructive when it was complete. He also had this nagging voice in the back of his head, boy should be killed before that kind of power could be used against him. He shook the thought away as they watched Naruto and Sasuke land near each other. You know that isn't going to keep her down for long, maybe a few seconds at the most? Sasuke asked him with a deadpan voice. Wait, she's still alive? Athena and Artemis thought. Yeah, I know. Naruto said as he crossed his arms. But first we should close that dimensional door that's open right now. I feel people are watching this fight and I don't want them to get in the crossfire. After Naruto said that, his head turned towards the group of gods that were supposed to be cloaked with the mist. He walked up to them even though he couldn't see them. The gods all looked surprised that he could sense them. Wasn't the mist supposed to make sure they couldn't be seen or felt? Naruto just stopped a few feet in front of them and he held his hand up. It looked like as though his hand was up against a wall. Naruto looked at Sasuke. Well, it seems they aren't really here and just looking though something, but knowing Kaguya, She would be able to break though and take over that dimension or just kill it with her all-killing Ashbone Jutsu. Sasuke, use your Mangekyo Sharingan to close it. Sasuke nodded as his eyes started to spin as the mist started to disappear around them as it started to turn back to the throne room. It's trying to keep itself open, Sasuke said as he poured more chakra into his eyes. You should hurry up as she is about to charge us, Naruto said as he saw the body of Kaguya instantly regenerate itself. Mother, that is annoying. Now you know how I felt with that ridiculously broken healing you have. Sasuke responded casually. People would say it's impossible at this point. Yeah, but they are not me, Naruto said confidently as he smacked his fist to the palm of his hand. They aren't Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the #1 hyperactive unpredictable ninja in the world. Datebao. Sasuke smirked as he heard that as finished closing the rift. The gods all were shocked that the mist was forced off them and weren't able to see them anymore. Iris was even trying to summon the mist again to see, but she wasn't able to. Soon most of the gods and goddesses were talking among themselves at what they just witnessed. Though Hera quickly walked out of the throne room, she looked back at her husband as she was about to leave. Zeus looked at her and quickly followed her. When they were both far enough from the rest of the council, Hera immediately broke into tears and flung her arms around Zeus. The tears weren't of sadness, no, they were tears filled with great joy. Zeus having his own tears appearing on his eyes. He held Hera close to him as he tried to calm her down with soothing words. She looked up at him with the tears still flowing down her face. That boy, he's, Hera said with happiness flowing in her voice. Yes, he is, thank chaos, Zeus said with equal happiness. We have to save him. He couldn't possibly stop her with that friend of his, Hera quickly said. Her worry for the boy growing rapidly as she was thinking the worst already. I know, but remember our oath, Zeus responded as he was trying to reason with her. The oath, I want to save our son. No, we cannot give him more bad luck in the situation that he is in right now, Zeus said to her again as he was thinking on what they could do to save their son. Anything at all, even if it's small, to give him an edge to win. The both of them soon started to make plans on saving their son. The arguments they had weren't against each other, but instead about the flaws. The plans they were trying to come up with only one goal in mind. The fates have given them a chance and they weren't going to lose their son a second time. They were going to bring the Prince of Olympus home. It has been a few weeks since they saw a little bit of the battle that Naruto and Sasuke were in. Iris was still trying to figure out how they were able to shut her out from seeing anything. Some of the gods like Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite and Hephaestus didn't really think about the battle after that. They just went back to their domains to do their jobs as it didn't concern them much. Athena left as well, but she went to her temple to scour her books for any information about that dimension and to see if the gods themselves were able to use that chakra thing they were using. Aries was in the armory bugging Hephaestus to build him something to break that dimension's barrier so he can go there and have a fight against that Naruto guy. Unless it's Kaguya, then he would just keep it close.
Artemis asked a few questions about that dimension to her father, though he didn't really say much as he was looking distracted about stuff. So she left to be with her hunters again. Apollo was already out as he had to make sure the sun was going on its correct path for the world. As for the king and queen of Olympus, well,
what in all of Olympus would make you think sending Aries and Artemis is a good idea? Those two will destroy everything in their path. Hell, Artemis will kill our son before he could even speak, Hera said in annoyance at her husband. Well, now that you put it that way, Zeus said with a sheepish voice. What, he thought that would have been a great idea. Yes, and you also thought that sending demigods with the attention span of a sponge to a place where ninjas will kill anyone they seem suspicious, really? Well, it would have given me an excuse to kill that Percy boy, Zeus grumbled. Hera pinched the bridge of her nose. Honestly, she might hate most the demigods, but she doesn't hold grudges against them. Well, most of the time anyways. Look, you thunder-headed idiot, Hera started. Hey. But, we need a solid plan that doesn't involve the other gods or sending demigods to their deaths, Hera finished. Zeus just huffed as he started pacing back and forth. Most of the plans that he made were shot down by his wife. Normally, she just wouldn't care on what he planned or what order he gave, but right now she was just infuriating him to no end. What's so bad in sending a pair of gods that were great at hunting and fighting? Not counting the fact that one of them is a man-hater and the other one will start another war just for fun. And another thing we need to worry about is the possibility, are you even listening to me? Hera asked with a raised eyebrow. Yes? Zeus responded dumbly, regretting letting Hephaestus take his master bolt for its weekly maintenance. Oh. Then what was I just talking about? You were, talking about how ninjas are cool. Hera gave out an annoyed sigh. Never mind, I'll just go and ask Athena for a plan seeing as she will be more helpful than you at the moment. With that she left quickly. Wait. I thought we were going to keep it a secret about Naruto. Hera didn't turn around as she continued to leave. Well, I say screw that secret as I want my baby boy back. Zeus watched the doors close in front of him as smacked himself in the forehead. He had to wonder where did he go wrong. He grumbled to himself before heading towards Athena's temple to be with his wife about their son. Temple of Athena. Athena was currently looking through her vast collection of books in her personal library for any information about that dimension. So far, no such luck in finding anything, which infuriated the intellectual goddess. She continued searching one of many shelves before he felt someone walk in. She turned around to find that it was Hera. Athena bowed to her as she put the book in her hands away. My queen, what brings you here? Athena asked in a formal way. Honestly, Athena, you are one of the only few gods that can call me by my name. You already earned my respect for that, Hera said as she waved off the formalities. Yet you hated me for some time before that, Athena responded. That was a long time ago, though I come in your need of help. What is it you need of me? Athena asked curiously. Before Hera could say anything, the both of them turned around to see Zeus came in a hurry. Hera just narrowed her eyes at him. What are you doing here? Hera asked. My king. Athena asked as well as she bowed to him. I am here for the same as you are, Hera, he said. I really doubt that. I am. I swear it on the sticks, he said as the skies rumbled. Hera and Athena, well, more like Hera was surprised that he said that. She really thought that he was going to stop her. So what is it that you wanted to ask me, Hera? Athena asked. Well, you see, Hera started as she and Zeus started to explain to her their predicament. While they are explaining everything to Athena, let's head over to see what Naruto is up to. Konoha. Everyone in the village was currently in good moods as ninjas and civilians alike were all celebrating for the end of the Great War. Everyone was in a buzz as to how Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura had sealed Kaguya in a different dimension and ended the war. Every ninja from the other hidden villages were all celebrating together. None of them were thinking about how one village was better than the other, no, they were all eating and drinking together. Nobody even realized that the Biju were also in full swing in the celebration as they all shrunk down to make themselves look like pets as the kids were feeding them various foods and drinks. Though the Biju soon realized that Son Goku should never be allowed to drink with Lee and Guy because those three caused too much destruction in their drunken state that it took the combined power of all of the Biju and both Naruto and Sasuke to subdue them. Everyone looked when they saw two blurs running through the crowd at neck-breaking speed. One of the blurs everyone recognized as the former Godem Hokage, Tsunade Senju. Tsunade was wearing her usual outfit as she was chasing the other blur. She had on a gray kimono blouse with no sleeves that was open that showed her cleavage from her massive breasts. She had a broad dark blue obi around her waist that matched the color of her pants. She was also running in her strappy black sandals with heels on them. All the ninjas were making bets on who she was chasing. Though all of the Konoha shinobi knew only one person that she would be chasing right now. Naruto. Get your ass back here, brat, so that we can finish the check-up already, Tsunade yelled. No way, Oba-chan. I hate needles, said the now identified blur Naruto. You stupid brat. What did I say about calling me that in public? Tsunade yelled with fire in her eyes. She really hated to be called that, especially by him. You told me to say it to everyone, Oba-chan. Naruto yelled out, making everyone bust out laughing. He yelped as Tsunade threw a boulder at him. That's it, you brat. Gah! Save me, everyone. Naruto yelled out in fear as Tsunade started to throw massive boulders at him. All shinobi in the area just looked the other way. They all knew they shouldn't stop Tsunade unless they wet her wrath on them. Traitors. Naruto just jumped over some kids before he was met with a fist in the face. Naruto flipped in the air a few times before crashing face first into the ground. He groaned as he tried to get up before he got hit in the head by two fists, causing a massive crater into the ground. Naruto was seeing double as he looked up to see a person with pink hair and Tsunade standing over him. Geez, Naruto. Why can't you just listen to Lady Tsunade for once in your life? The person with pink hair asked him. Thank you for stopping the loud-mouthed idiot over here, Sakura. Tsunade said as she grabbed Naruto by the back of his neck. Sakura nodded as she dusted herself. Sakura had short pink hair with a green rhombus on her forehead. Her forehead protector being used as headband. She was wearing a white doctor's coat as she was on duty at the moment.
Underneath the coat, she had on a sleeveless red kipao dress that reaches her upper thighs, with white trimmings and a white circular design on the back. It was held with a black obi wrapped around her waist. Underneath she had on black biker shorts with black high-heel shinobi sandals like Tsunade's. She was adjusting her black gloves she had on with metal plates wrapped on her knuckles.
Sakura, please don't let her use the needles on me. Naruto yelled frantically, looking like a small child in Tsunade's grip as she was dragging him to the hospital. Honestly, Naruto, for someone that can save the world and make the impossible possible, I don't see why you are afraid of little needles. Sakura said with an exasperated sigh. But you know I hate hospitals. Ba-chan, stop. Naruto said as Tsunade was giving him a super strength nuggie. Shut up, brat. Now just stay quiet as we head back to the hospital to draw some blood. No. Naruto yelled as Sakura just covered her eyes with her hand as she followed her teacher and her idiot teammate. Few hours later, Naruto was finally walking out of the hospital while rubbing his right arm. He was grumbling to himself about how hospitals were evil, and when he was Hokage he would make a rule for himself to never set foot in one again. He also looked down at his arm as it was missing his hand and forearm anyways. He gave a small smile on how he lost it in the first place. He didn't regret it at all as he thought back on the memory. Flashback no jutsu. Both Sasuke and Naruto were across from one another in the Valley of the End. The both of them look worse for wear and were severely weak. They both of them were very low on chakra as they were trying to regain their bearings. You dope, can't you see that with me in charge, everybody will be at peace? Sasuke asked with heavy breaths. Peace? No, that's not peace, that's just another mad ruler waiting to happen, Naruto responded. Sasuke didn't say anything as he started charging a black Chidori with black flames. Naruto just formed his signature Rasengan in his hand. The both of them charged at each other, both yelling as both of their moves collided. They were engulfed in a giant white dome as a massive shockwave started to destroy the area around them quickly. Inside the dome, the two of them were both standing in front of each other, but not as their adult bodies, instead in their child body. The both of them were staring at each other as memories started to surround them from the beginning they first met as kids all the way to now. They continued to stare as they both looked around at the memories, all the good, the bad and stuff they wish they would just forget about. Then child Naruto smiled a big smile as he stuck his hand out at Sasuke. Child Sasuke gave a small smile and took Naruto's hand as they both started to fade into the white area around them. The dome died down as it started to shrink as it revealed the Valley of the End was also completely destroyed and deformed. It revealed the two for them laying on their backs staring up into the sky as it was starting to rain. Their bodies depleted of chakra and their bodies not being able to move anymore. The both of them were silent for a bit before a pained chuckle came out of Naruto's mouth. What is so funny, dope? Sasuke asked in pain. How is it that it always ends with the two of us fighting each other? Because you are a stubborn idiot, Sasuke said, and you are an egotistic avenger with a superiority complex. Naruto shook his head even though it hurt him. They laid there in silence as the rain continued to fall on them. At some point, the both of them passed from exhaustion their bodies were in. Flashback no jutsu. Kai. Naruto shook his head at that with a smile. Sure, when they woke up they finally finished talking it out and convincing Sasuke that killing the Biju and ruling over everyone was bad had cost him an arm. But he saw it as a good loss for him to have peace with all the elemental nations. Naruto noticed that he had wandered to the shinobi grave stone while he was thinking back. He gave a sad smile as he walked up to the stone. The memorial stone was made of a massive black stone that had the names of all the fallen shinobi that died while they were out on missions and such. Naruto placed a hand on the stone as he read all the names on it. A few names gave his heart a great deal of sadness. Hinata Uzumaki Neji Hyuga Minato Namikaze Kushina Uzumaki. Those names were the ones that stuck out the most. His parent were the first names that stuck out to him. Don't get him wrong. He knew who he was and was proud that he was the son the fourth Hokage and the red-hot habanero. It was just that he only got to meet them for a few minutes the most. While others still have their parents or they knew them for a long time, He didn't have that luxury. He didn't get to learn many things that other kids had when they had their parents. He didn't get to feel the warmth a home that truly had when a family lived together. The next name that gave him great sadness was his dead wife. You see, Naruto isn't what you call smart when it came to women. He was maybe at best as smart as a wall. So one day at his favorite place to eat at, which was Ichiraku Ramen stand, he was shoved into a booth with his longtime friend Hinata from all his friends, and was also threatened by the chief of the food stand from not being able to be served ramen for a year to get him to take her on a date. Well, it did cause Naruto to run away in a panic while holding a blushing Hinata in his arms to their first date. Naruto did thank them in the end though, because after all the threats and that forced date, it did lead them to having many more dates and also leading to their marriage before the war started. The two of them enjoyed every second they had together. Naruto closed his eyes tightly as the tears were threatening to spill as he remembered how his wife and her cousin Neji died. Flashback no jutsu. Hinata-sama, look out! A man yelled as he shoved Hinata out of the way. Naruto quickly turned around as he was fighting a few of the revived 7 swordsmen. The swordsmen weren't giving Naruto any chances to attack back as they kept putting lots of pressure on him to just defending himself as they were coordinating their attacks from either side of him. Naruto watched in slow motion as an injured Neji shoved Hinata out of the way as Hanzo used his kusarigama to wrap the chains around Neji's body and had the blade along his neck. Hinata got up quickly but didn't move as she watched Hanzo press the blade more into Neji's neck, causing it to bleed a bit. You know, if I was alive I still wouldn't have let all of you go from this surprise attack, Hanzo said from his mask. Both Hinata and Naruto looked in horror as Neji closed his eyes as Hanzo pulled his kusarigama back and beheaded Neji. Hanzo let out a laugh as Neji's head fell to the ground. Naruto let out an angry yell as he started to let some of the Kyuubi's chakra started to make some of his features more feral as Naruto was starting to push back his opponents so he could get to Hinata. Hinata gave a harsh glare to Hanzo as he threw Neji's body to the side as he fed the blood of his kusarigama. Hinata's then activated her Byakugan. The veins around her eyes bulged as she started to gather chakra around her hands. Hinata, wait! Naruto yelled as he was kicked in the chest as he dodged a blade aimed to his head. Sorry Naruto, but I have to do this, Hinata said with a steeled voice. Flashback no jutsu. Kai. Naruto just shook his head when he felt the tears fall. He watched as his wife fall to Hanzo, though he was also proud of her since she was also the one that stopped him from killing anyone else. Though it did cause the dark side of him come out as he slaughtered the enemy troops. They thought they could take him down when he was emotionally vulnerable. Nothing was left in the area after that attempt. Naruto destroyed the area with only his Rasen Shuriken that was also powered by the Kyuubi's chakra. Naruto wasn't seen after that day as he left to grieve his wife's death. Nobody could blame him though, as they were married just a few days before the war started. But such is the life of a shinobi. Naruto gave a shaky breath as looked upon the stone again. He placed a hand on it and have a small prayer to them before he left again. He had to be alone now for a bit. Mount Olympus, so let me see if I got everything down now, Athena said as she was rubbing her temples from the ever-growing headache. You too, she started as she pointed at both of them. Decided that for a marriage intervention, was to have your mortal and godly halves split and have your godly halves stay here. Both Hera and Zeus nodded. Then, you asked the primordial gods, which I might add was very stupid as they always have a price for help, to help you and Hecate to get you to the dimension that none of the other gods knew about. Where you two had a mortal body and lived there for years and had a son where the both of you thought was dead. Again the both of them nodded. Athena looked at them both with a deadpan stare. I have so many questions about that place, like what is chakra they were talking about or how the architecture over there is, but now is not the time. Correct, right now we need to have a plan on how to get Naruto over here, Zeus said with a nod. How do you even know that he is alive, right? For all we know he could be laying there dead right now at the hands of that woman. Athena responded, causing the both Hera and Zeus to frown. He is alive, Hera said to her with her chin in the air. How do you even know that? Iris can't even get through looking at the dimension again. Whatever they did is strong enough to keep her out of her own domain, Athena said. Even though she isn't strong to begin with, Zeus said underneath his breath quietly. Though not quite enough as he got smacked in the back of his head by Hera. Hush. I just know, call it a mother's intuition, Hera said as she was fixing a spot of her toga. So a gut feeling, That isn't very comforting to know. Right. So have you figured out a plan? Hera asked her impatiently as she crossed her arms. As much as I don't want to help with the limited information I have about that dimension, I have a few plans on how we should proceed about it. That's good, so let's hear them, Zeus said impatiently. Athena sighed at how impatient her father could be. Well, one thing we could do is send a team of 3 demigods that are good with interacting with people and also has some muscle for backup in case trouble begins to show up. I feel a bit coming, Hera said. She saw Athena nodded. There are few problems. One would be the language barrier on Dimension. From what I gathered from what we saw, the language they use is unknown to us here, so we couldn't really teach them the language unless one of you two transfer the knowledge into the demigods or put it in a book. What is Plan B? Hera asked. Well, let me ask you this. Did the both of you swear that you would never set foot on in that dimension, or was it just, Hera and Zeus never return? Well, I meant that I would never set foot there again, Zeus said as he scratched the back of his head. Athena nodded as she looked at Hera for her answer. I did as well. Her responded quietly. Okay, well, there goes my idea of sending you two over there again in your godly bodies with minimal of your powers. Do we have a plan C? Hera asked. As much as I hate to say it, we could go with Father's idea of sending Aries and Artemis to go retrieve him, Athena started. Okay, well, let us call the council, Zeus said as he got up quickly, thinking that was the plan they were going to go with. But she cut him off quickly. I suggest that we replace Artemis due to her hate for men and I switch out with her. At least this way, if Ares tries to start something I can stop him before it goes too far. Zeus thought about it for a bit. Athena on the other hand was staring at her father with a raised eyebrow. Really, you are thinking it over right now? She asked. You do know I have beaten him many times already, right? Yes, you have, but not in one-on-one combat, Zeus pointed out. Athena just scowled. I can take him on by myself. Besides, that idiot only uses brute strength and simple laid plans consisting of just going in head first and swinging wildly, Athena responded. Fine, you can go too as well, but I say you also bring a demigod with you just in case, Zeus said. You're not going to budge on that, are you? Even if that demigod is just going to slow us down? Athena asked, knowing what the answer was going to be anyways. Fine, I suggest that I bring my dog. You are bringing that Jackson brat. Zeus cut her off. What? One of Seaweed Brain's kids? No way in all of the underworld. That brat will cause more problems than we can help it. You're taking him. He is the only one that had defeated Ares himself. It is no offense to your own strength by any means, Zeus said quickly. Then why to the fates is he coming with us? Zeus mumbled something. Hera covered her eyes with her hand and mumbled, idiot, under her breath as she was close enough to hear what he said. What is it reason? Athena asked again with annoyance. So that Jackson brat could may die over there, Zeus said a little louder. I don't think I heard you correctly, Athena said, pretending that she didn't hear him. So that Jackson can hopefully not come back, Zeus yelled out at her, making her smirk in response. Ah, and there lies the reason. Athena had a huge smirk on her face. So I'm not bring him with us for your stupid grudge against him. With that, Athena turned around and started getting things ready for her quest. Zeus just hung his head with a rain cloud forming over him, and Hera just shook her head and left before he did. Zeus for him just rubbed his head before he headed towards the council chambers to call a meeting. It was time to explain to the rest of them what is going to happen now. As he was walking, he was wondering how his son was doing. Maybe he was like his old man and finally got himself a girlfriend. Konoha Naruto sneezed as he was walking to eat Shiraku ramen. He wiped his nose with his sleeve. Someone must be talking about me. Wonder if it's someone I know. Naruto thought to himself. Everyone knows you and dumb ass. Someone responded in his head sarcastically. Naruto rolled his eyes, gave a small smile as he heard that voice. He stopped at the ramen stand and took his seat. He started to think about his friend. Now, by no means is Naruto crazy enough to be talking to himself. At least not yet anyways. No, he was talking to a friend of his that lives inside his body. Now his friend used to hate his guts to no end and also threatened to eat him every chance he got, but Naruto didn't let it get to him. Eventually the two of them respected one another and started helping each other during the war. Your food is going to get cold, moron, the voice said to him. Oh, food. Want to join me? Naruto asked the voice. I'll do anything to be out of this dump you call your head. Hey, my head isn't that bad. Naruto interjected. It's a damp sewer, you moronic simpleton. You just get mad because your fur gets all damp and unfluffy. Hey, don't diss my fur, brat. It takes months to get it back to looking normal in that head of yours. Whatever, fur ball. Just summon me already. With that, Naruto closed his eyes as he used his left hand to channel some chakra as he put his hand on his stomach, which caused red chakra to come out and started flowing to the seat next to him. The chakra itself started to shape into a small animal with 9 tails. The chakra soon solidified as it turned into skin and fur as rabbit-like ears appears and 9 fluffy tails became visible. No one else in the stand was freaking out when the fox made out of chakra just appeared. They knew that if anything happened, Naruto would save them, being the hero and all. What flavor you want? Naruto asked the fox as though it was normal. Does he have anything rabbit flavored? The fox asked in a deep voice. Hey, old man, do you have any ramen that has rabbit in it? Naruto asked the chef. Sure thing, Naruto. Anything else for the Kyuubi? The chef asked as he was already getting the ingredients together. Do you want anything else? Naruto asked. If he does have it, I would like a side of vegetables. The Kyuubi said as his tails were waving behind him. Coming right up, the chief said as he turned around to start making the ramen. Oh hey, old man, where is Tuchi and Ayame? Naruto asked as he was already finishing his 5th bowl. The owners went to Wave to get some new ingredients for the ramen they want to make, so they asked me to cover for them since they know you would want some and not want you to go hungry. Naruto nodded and smiled at that. He wiped his face as he got ready for his next bowl. The Kyuubi bowed his head at the chief as his food was placed in front of him. Hey, look, it's a cute fox. A child said as a group of them ran up and started hugging and petting the Kyuubi. You ninja. I am the mighty Kyuubi. I can destroy mountains with a single F of my O. That feels good, keep scratching there. The Kyuubi said before he felt the children starting to pet and scratch him behind the ear, and he just started to completely relax. The kids giggled as they continue what they were doing while Naruto was laughing at how the mightiest of the Biju was reduced to a children's petting animal. Naruto started to laugh more as the kids brought the Kyuubi to their table with his food and started to feed him. Naruto wiped a tear out of his eye as he paid for the ramen and started to wander around the village again. He knew that the Kyuubi can find him again after the kids finished feeding and petting him. Naruto waved at the passing ninja and civilians as they passed him. Naruto also saw the other Biju pass by him as kids were following them around as well. Hey Naruto, wait up. Naruto turned around to see who was calling him. He saw that it was his friend Rock Lee. Now Rock Lee changed after the war. He actually got rid of his bowl cut and had it short and spiked up. His eyebrows were also trimmed to look normal, much to everyone's relief. He had on a black and green skin-tight shirt that showed his muscles that he had gained through hard work with the sleeves ripped off. He had on his usual bandages wrapped around his hands and forearms. He was also wearing black kung fu pants that had golden dragons on the side of the pants' legs, and he also had on ninja tabi after he changed out of his usual sandals. Oh hey bushy brows, what's up? Naruto asked as he turned around and gave Lee a handshake. My friend. How are you doing on this youthful day? Lee asked. I'm doing fine, Lee. Why aren't you celebrating like everyone else? Naruto asked him. Well, you see, it was most unyouthful of me to drink and cause so much of that destruction, so I had myself run around the village on my hands 10,000 times and I just finished. Lee said with his eyes burning with fire. Naruto just sweat dropped at that. Leave it to Lee to go over the top. That's good to know, buddy. Yosh. Also, I was also going to ask you if you wanted a friendly spar with me. Sure, why not? It's not like that Teme would want to spar with me right now. Yosh. Lee yelled with his fist pumped into the air and disappeared at high speeds to one of the many training fields they had. Naruto just shook his head in amusement as he also disappeared in a burst of speed. Naruto just simply tracked Lee's chakra to where they would spar at. Even if his reserves were as small as a civilian, Lee wasn't someone you took lightly. With his mastery of taijutsu, Lee could fight on almost cage level without his nunchaku by himself. Training Ground Naruto soon appeared in front of Lee at Training Ground 9. Lee was already casually stretching as Naruto appeared in front of him. Naruto looked around as he wanted to make sure no one else was around. He also checked for any chakra signature that were nearby as he didn't want anyone getting hurt when him and Lee started sparring. When he confirmed that no one was around, Naruto nodded as he flexed his left hand to pop his knuckles as he still hasn't figured out if he wanted to get a new hand or not. Yosh. Are you ready to spar, my youthful friend? Lee asked excitedly as he was hopping on the balls of his feet. Naruto nodded as he got in a loose stance. Lee smiled before he steeled himself as his eyes hardened as he took the fighting stance of the strong fist that he and his sensei Might Guy were known for. Naruto took a deep breath before he nodded to Lee. The both of them stood there waiting for either of them to make the first move. Naruto broke first as he charged straight at Lee with his fist ed back. Lee watched as Naruto closed the distance from each other in less than a second, but he was calm. Lee waited for the last second before he tilted his head to the side to let Naruto's fist go past his head. Lee used Naruto's momentum against him and threw him over his shoulder. Naruto flipped in the air to land on his feet. He saw just in time for Lee to appear in front of him and had Lee's knee crash into Naruto's nose. Naruto himself didn't budge as the hit didn't affect him as much as he used his hand to block most of the hit, though it still crashed the back of his hand to his face. Naruto disappeared and reappeared behind Lee and swung the back of his hand to Lee's head, causing Lee's head to whip to the side. Lee though turned his body as his head whipped to use as added momentum for his body to add power to the kick to Naruto's side. Naruto gritted his teeth as he blocked Lee's kick, though his body was sent flying to the forest and crashing through trees. Naruto so turned his body so the next tree he would land on his feet. He channeled Chakra to his and pushed off hard, causing the tree to explode into thousands of splinters as he flew right back at Lee. Lee got back in his stance as he watched Naruto's body get close to him, before Naruto made a hand sign with his hand and made 4 clones. Lee didn't even look surprised as he started blocking the 3 other clones with only one hand as his other one was behind his back. The clones were throwing different combination of punches and kicks. The 3 Naruto was in the back with his hand making a golden Rasengan in his hand. Lee noticed that Naruto had used his signature jutsu and he quickly disposed of the 3 clones and he started running towards Naruto. Naruto then disappeared just as Lee was about hit him in the head. Lee looked around quickly before he bent backwards at an awkward angle to dodge the charging Naruto and his Rasengan. Lee quickly placed his hands on the ground and stood on them so he could use his feet to kick Naruto in the stomach high up into the air. Lee pushed himself up into the air only to get hit by Naruto on his head by a kick. Lee's body crashed down into the ground and caused a giant created with Lee in the middle of it. Naruto landed as he started to chuckle. Lee himself also started chuckling as he flipped himself onto his feet. Yosh! That was a good start-up warm-up for us. Lee yelled excitedly as he jumped out of the created and landed in front of Naruto a few feet back. Yeah, that was a good warm-up. Naruto said as he was popping his neck. That helped get the crick out of my neck. So you ready to spar seriously with the intent to kill? Yosh! I wouldn't have it any other way. Lee yelled with flames in his eyes. Lee made a hand seal as he took off the weighted and gravity seals that Naruto put on him for training. Naruto was getting into his stance when he saw the Kyuubi come walking through the trees with the kids he was with earlier and some of his friends. He also saw the rest of the Biju come walking in to watch them. Naruto waved at them before he went back looking at Lee with a determined face. Lee was now hopping on his toes as he was quickly adjusting to the released weight. Well, bushy brows, I'm ready when you are, Naruto said. Lee nodded and was about to take out his nunchaku when he and everyone else noticed that the sky had darkened a little. They all looked at the sky as the wind started to pick up. Naruto looked up into the sky as the Kyuubi quickly went to Naruto and hopped onto his shoulder. Naruto's eyes soon changed to a gold and had a bar replacing his normal pupil. Naruto saw that clouds were starting to form a cylinder in the sky as a light was being showing in the middle of it. Naruto saw that it was getting brighter and closer as he continued to start at it. Everyone get back now! Naruto yelled as he and Lee jumped back. The Biju made a barrier around the kids to protect them as the ninjas all took cover behind some trees. The light in the sky soon hit the ground, causing it to shake violently. Naruto covered his eyes from the flying dirt. The ground continued to shake as the light grew brighter before it stopped and the sky started to go back to its clear bright sky. Naruto looked at where the light was to see 3 people had appeared. 2 of them were male and the last person was a woman. They were speaking in a language Naruto didn't understand. Aries, remember what father said, don't start a war or you are getting your butt kicked by this boy here, Athena said as she was looking at Aries. You're no fun, Athena. At least Mr. Stowaway here is more fun than you, Aries said. Thank you for reminding about that, Athena said as she turned to the boy with a glare. What gave you the idea that you were allowed on this quest, boy? Because Zeus said I could and that you too would need help, the boy said frantically with a respectable tone. Which was surprising itself considering who this boy is. Athena just pinched the bridge of her nose and gave an exasperated sigh. Fine. But you are going to have to listen to me. When we get back we are telling Chiron what you did, as I have to chew out my father for interfering. While the two gods were talking, Naruto signaled his friends to get the Anbu quickly as possible. His friends left quickly and quietly. Naruto turned back around to look at the group of people and he felt the emotions from the big that was decked out in armor was filled with violence and anger. Naruto nodded to the Kyuubi and the rest of the Biju. All the Biju soon turned back to their chakra forms and were all willingly absorbed into Naruto to be safe. He picked up the kids and quickly took them out of the area and into one of the village's ice cream shops, and he paid for their ice cream so he can keep them there. Naruto soon returned to the forest to keep an eye on the new people. This place is amazing, so full of life and rich with nature, Athena said as she looked around the training area. Bah, who cares about that? I want to see how these people fight, Aries said as he was popping his knuckles as he was wanting to fight these so-called ninjas. Naruto didn't turn around as the Anbu commander for the three group of Anbu came towards behind him and kneeled next to him. Who are these people, Naruto? The commander asked as he was looking at the people. I have no idea, Hawk-san, but they are speaking in a different language that I don't understand, Naruto said as he put a piece of paper on the ground and took out his ink and brush and quickly made seal that will hide their presence and sight within the seal bubble. That's better, but you guys still need to keep your voice down, Naruto said. Thank you. So what are we going to do with the commander asked him. I have a few ideas, Naruto said as he had a glint in his eyes as he started telling them his plans. The gods and one demigod soon felt a chilling chill go down their backs. They all looking at each other with the same thought. Why do I get the feeling this quest is going to? Why didn't I just listen to Annabeth? A boy said as he was running away from an unknown enemy. The boy that was running was Percy Jackson from a camp called Camp Half-Blood. He had black messy hair at the moment and had green eyes that were full of panic and anxiety. He had a thin body like a swimmer, but it also looked fit and muscular, but not too muscular like most men like to be. He was wearing an orange shirt and had a necklace around his neck that had a bead with an image of a trident on it. He was wearing a pair of blue jeans and some sneakers. Jackson took cover behind a tree as he saw some shadows quickly pass him. He gave a sigh of relief as he slid down the tree till he was sitting on the ground trying to catch his breath. Percy was trying to figure out how it all started. All they did was stand there and tried talking to one person. One freaking person, and it went to hell because of Aries. Well, and maybe him from not knowing what they were saying and thought they were insulting him, but it was mostly Aries' fault. He was tossed at the ninja and had somehow went head first into a woman's chest. That caused him to run for his life from the wrath of a woman's fury. It didn't help that a few more female ninjas joined in on chasing him. While Percy was looking around to see if the close was clear, he didn't notice a pair of eyes above him watching his every move. The person wasn't ordered to do anything to the boy per orders from Naruto, so he was just tasked to see if he was a serious threat. So far he didn't show much of threat at all. The person just watched till Percy got up and started running, not knowing he is heading towards the town. Wonder if he knows that he is going to a town full of ninja. I should let boss know, the person said before disappearing in a poof smoke. With Aries, with the jackass war-hungry god himself, he was still at the training ground and was also completely surrounded by ninjas. Aries had his arms crossed as he looked around the ninja. You all should just give up since you are in the presence of a god, Aries said, his voice full of arrogance. The ninja just looked at each other confused as they didn't understand a word he was saying. Did he just say he liked to share pudding? One of them asked in confusion. Ooh, pudding actually sounds good right now, another one said. Can we please stay focused at the man in armor? An Anbu ninja with a fox mask said to them. Do you all not fear death? Aries asked, not really caring that they can't understand him. The ninja themselves all then just shrugged at what he said. Aries getting a little mad, so he tried to intimidate them by flaring some of his power. Aries' body glowed a little red as he was releasing some of his power. The ninjas just looked at him funny. What is that? He is lighting himself on fire, someone asked. Aries frowned more as these mortals were not intimidated by the power. So he started to release more out from body, causing him to glowing more red. The ninja themselves weren't really fazed by how much power was being thrown at them. After fighting against Kaguya during the war, they weren't really worried. Also, all of the allied forces from the war was still in the village, so even if this person was really powerful, eventually they would fall from sheer numbers alone. That's it. You puny mortals will show me the respect that I deserve. Aries yelled at them, letting his anger take hold. Aries charged at them with one of his swords drawn. The sword was a long and kind of broad. It looked like it had to be used with 2 hands, but for the war god himself he had little trouble using just one. Aries was soon in front of a couple of the ninja and swung the sword at their heads. The ninja themselves reacted fast as they all leaned back enough for the blade to pass them. Though one ninja was not fast enough and had her cheek nicked. The woman raised an eyebrow as she placed her hand on her cheek and looked to see there was blood. Aries thought that it would freak the woman out and started screaming, but instead he saw the woman gave him a sadistic smile as she edged the blood off her fingers. The other ninja paled and started to back from her as she was starting to let out some killing intent. "Oh, look at that, you spilled some of my blood," the woman said. Aries took a good look at the woman. The woman in front of her had a violet short spiky fanned hair. She was wearing a tan trench coat that had some blood on the sleeves. Underneath the coat she had a mesh bodysuit that showed off her wonderful assets well, since she never wore a bra. She also wore an orange miniskirt with a blue belt. She was wearing gray shin guard on her legs with her black shinobi sandals. The person that Aries had just nicked was Anko Mitarashi, one of the famous interrogators for Konoha. Anko," one of the ninjas asked carefully. "Quiet boy. I just want to go and say hi to this person," Anko said sweetly. "Run everyone, Anko is going to say hi." A ninja yelled frantically as he ran away in total fear. Soon after, almost all the other ninja were running away in fear, except for Lee, as he was wanting to fight the guy in armor as well. "Yosh. Anko, your youth shine brightly, but can you please stop that creepy smile so that I may fight him at equally footing?" Lee asked. "Sure, creepy eyebrows. Just give me some time to play with him first. How about 5 minutes?" Anko asked Lee as she was walking towards Aries. Aries, for his part, he was more starting at Anko's body than paying attention to the look that she was giving him and the sound of knuckles popping. Lee nodded and pulled out a time from who knows where on his body and set it down on a rock nearby and set it to 5 minutes. He pushed a button and the timer started. Lee sat down in front of the rock to watch the battle in front of him as he was changing the bandages on his hands. With Athena, with our favorite wisdom goddess, she was being better at hiding herself from the ninja when Aries threw Jackson at the ninja as his so-called distraction plan. She changed herself into a normal-looking civilian during the confusion and quickly slipped past them and headed to the village. She was casually looking though the village with curiosity at full affect. She felt like as though she was a child in a candy store. All the things she could learn here while the 2 men were distracting the other ninjas. She observed the people and how they acted, the language they were speaking, the food being served, and so on. She was amazed at how they all could live like this with what limited technological advances they had. She was also further amazed at some of the ninja were doing, like how they were casually walking up a building as they were talking as though it was the ground itself. Her mind was racing with multiple possibilities on how they did that. She also smiled at the children as she saw them playing with small animals and were also taking great care on not hurting them. It warmed her heart at the sight and wished that back home the people could do the same. As she was watching them, she didn't notice that she bumped into someone. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention where I was going," the person said. Athena just waved the person off and pretended that she was a mute so that she wouldn't have to speak to them. She looked at the person that she walked into and it was a man with hair that reminded her of a pineapple. He was wearing a green vest with multiple pockets at the front. Underneath the vest he had on a black long-sleeve shirt that had a silver plate on his left arm that looked like a leaf symbol on it. She noticed that he was wearing a long-sleeve fishnet shirt as well underneath his black shirt. He had on black pants with a pouch strapped to his right thigh and had on some black ninja sandals. Athena started to use hand signs, hoping the person would understand that she couldn't talk. The man in front of him noticed that she wasn't speaking and was making rapid hand signals at him. He smiled and started signing back to her, which surprised her. She thought this dimension wouldn't know how to sign. "I see that you are surprised that I was able to understand your signing," the man signed. "Yes, I am. Most people don't know how to sign and I would usually have to have a piece of paper to write out what I'm saying. Athena signed. Must be troublesome. Terribly so. So may I have your name so I can properly say sorry for running into you? You don't need to apologies and the name is Shikamaru. With Naruto was currently standing on top of his father's head on the Hokage monument. He was currently having an argument with his partner. For the last time I am not going to let you eat them just because you are hungry, Naruto said with an exasperated sigh. Why not? They be a perfect snack for me, the Kyuubi said. For one thing they are people. 2, you don't even need to eat, you are a massive of chakra for Kami's sake, Naruto pointed out. Another thing, why don't you ever let other people call you by your real name besides me and your siblings? Because they haven't earned the right to know my true name. Not even you have earned the right, the Kyuubi yelled in his head. Yes I have. You even told me yourself during the war. That is beside the point. No it's not. Yes it is. Now we need to figure out who those people are as they give off different energies than everyone else. You caught that too huh? Naruto said as he started to gather natural energy around him. Of course, you moronic idiot. Also I can't feel their chakra cores. I would suggest that we tread carefully, but knowing you, that is next to impossible. Hey. I can be careful when I want to be. The Kyuubi just stared him with the look of, you were ing with me right? Naruto just nervously chuckled and scratched the back of his before he started to gather nature chakra to activate his sage mode. Now sage mode is one of many tricks that Naruto had. Sage mode is when he gathered nature chakra around him from nature itself he becomes a sage. He learned how to do this from the toads from Mount Myoboku. Yes, he did learn this from toads. When Naruto enters sage mode everything is enhanced for Naruto. His speed, reflexes, strength and so forth are enhanced. Also his jutsus are more powerful as well. Naruto gave a calm sigh as his eyes changed to yellow with a bar in the middle and had orange pigmentation around his eyes. Naruto could sense all the chakras around him and he could tell who was who. And he smiled when he felt the 3 people with no chakras in them. He felt the boy reading towards the village. The woman is with Shikamaru and the other guys was in the training field and apparently so were Anko and Lee. Naruto shivered when he remembered that Anko really liked to play with her opponents and has a strong fetish for blood. What to do first? Naruto thought to himself as he was releasing the nature chakra. I say we eat the boy first, the Kyuubi said in his mind. Naruto ignored his friend as he just started to walk off his father's head and just started falling to the ground. He wasn't really paying attention as he was falling towards the ground. He was concentrating more on what he should do first. When he was close to the ground, Naruto was looking up at the sky as his body just naturally bent his legs as he landed onto the ground causing small cracks to appear on the ground. He started to casually walk towards the gates of the village. Maybe he would visit his friends Kotesu and Izumo there. Yeah, he would do that and then talk to that boy and maybe avoid a fight. Maybe. With Aries at the moment was casually dodging Anko's attempt on attacking him. He really wanted to fight this Naruto person that his father talked about and then show him who was top dog. He just couldn't believe that he was the son of the king and queen. He just couldn't see it. As he was thinking that, he didn't notice that Anko had got a thin cut on his arm with her kunai. She raised an eyebrow when she saw that his blood wasn't the normal red but gold. She jumped back a bit when Aries brought his sword down above her at high speed. I have to ask, are you strongly immune to poison? Anko as she was twirling her kunai between her fingers. I still can't understand you, you whorish-looking woman, Aries said. Yeah, I thought so. Anko nodded as though she could understand him. Aries raised his sword again in a ready stance as he saw Anko raising her hands in front of her. Lee was looking impatient as only 3 minutes went by. Anko smiled before king cobras started to fly out of her sleeves at high speeds. Aries' eyes widened slightly as he started swinging his sword widely as he doesn't want to get bitten by them. They may be one of his sacred animals, but he couldn't control them unless in his divine form. He jumped up into the air as he changed his sword into AK-47 and started shooting the snakes. The snakes, when they got hit by the bullets, they all disappeared into smoke. Anko pouted but was also looking at her watch. Aries landed on the ground with a heavy thud as he was reloading his gun. That the best you got? Aries taunted with innocence in his voice. Anko didn't say anything as she continued to look at her watch as her free hand raised with 3 fingers up and started to do countdown. Aries was confused at first before he started to feel his body starting to feel heavy. He looked down as he saw his arms starting to fall to the sides, his weapon falling to the ground and changing back to a sword. Aries growled in annoyance as he tried to get his arms to respond. Soon his legs started to shake and he fell to one knee. He growled in anger as he tried to get back up. He saw Anko walking up to him slowly with her smile still on her face. When she got in front of him, Aries was giving her an angry glare. Anko didn't flinch though. She just continued smiling at him before she brought her right leg back. With her smile growing more sadistic, she slammed her chakra-enhanced foot into the god's balls. Aries let out a high-pitched scream as he fell onto his side. Aries had his eyes shut as tears were forming in his eyes. "Oh, I feel better. Too bad the poison I had on me was only a mild one. Oh well," Anko said as he sighed sadly while placing one hand on her cheek. "Oh, one more thing." Anko then got a vial from her trench coat and cut his arm again with her kunai and started filling it with his golden blood. When she finished, she put a cork in it. She heard the alarm go off and she put the vial back in her trench coat. "Well, my time is over. You can have him now, creepy brows. I'm going to put his blood with the rest of my collection at my house." "Did you really have to do that unyouthful move to him?" Lee asked as he was walking up to Anko. "Hey, we're shinobi, we don't play fair, remember?" Anko said cheekily before she left in a swirl of leaves. Lee just shook his head as he looked at the fallen god whose balls were in pain from getting kicked. "Sue, want to talk about youth while you heal from the unyouthful attack to your precious area?" Lee asked as he squatted in front of Aries. With Naruto, we find our blonde hero just leaving the front gates of Konoha where he was saying hi to Kotetsu and Izumo, also known as the Eternal Guards of Konoha. Naruto was casually walking with his only hand in his pocket. He spotted the boy that appeared with the two other people in the training center. He noticed that the boy was looking around in curiosity. Naruto shrugged as he walked up to him and waved at him to get his attention. "Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said happily. Percy just tilted his head in confusion, not knowing what the person said to him and only getting the word Naruto from the person from him. Naruto for his part was talking slower now and was doing weird poses. Who are you?" Percy asked in his language. He was really regretting not listening to Annabeth when she told him to not listen to Zeus. Naruto smacked his forehead as he realized that he was getting nowhere with his poses. "I can't believe it. There is someone just as stupid as you," the Kyuubi said in Naruto's mind. "Shush you," Naruto responded. "Seriously, he is like you. Though he smells like the sea. But I can just sense that he is an idiotic hero like you." Naruto's face vaulted at that as Percy jumped back a little when he saw that. Naruto picked himself off from the ground and shook his head. "Oi. Don't do that, it makes the cage shake." Naruto rolled his eyes as he took out his ink and brush and waved the boy over to him. Percy was worried when he saw him wave at him. Naruto shook his head and waved the boy over to him again. Percy didn't move as he was holding a golden pen in his hand. Naruto just gave him a deadpan stare. He looked around for a piece of paper on him and pulled out a blank scroll he had in his pouch. Naruto started drawing on the scroll for a few minutes. When he was done, he held it up to Percy, showing a picture of him and Percy next to each other with Naruto holding a brush with an equal sign that showed Percy being able to talk to each other. Percy only saw two stick figures next to each other and what looked like a speech bubble above his head with strange symbols in it. He really couldn't figure out what he meant with the picture. Percy tilted his head as he tried to make out what the picture meant. The Kyuubi on the other hand shook his head in confusion. "I knew you ed at drawing, but I thought it wouldn't have been this bad," the Kyuubi said in disappointment. Naruto covered his eyes with his hand as he threw the scroll over his shoulder and hitting a random person on the head with his. He looked at Percy again and just reappeared in front of him and with a quick hand, he made a small seal on the shoulder of Percy. As Naruto was finishing the seal, Percy finally realized that Naruto was in front of him and he jumped back quickly and ced his pen. Naruto watched in fascination as he saw the pen change into a long bronze sword with some words on the blade. "Cool," Naruto said quietly as he made a shadow clone behind Percy and quickly added chakra to the seal before he made it disappear. Percy didn't even realize that happened. Naruto raised his hand as he counted down in his head. "Hey, what's the big idea appearing in front of me like that?" Percy asked in a defensive tone. Naruto didn't say anything as his fingers continued to go down till it was only his index finger. "Hey, I'm talking to you," Percy said again, not realizing that he was talking like he was now. There we go, much better. Naruto said as Percy looked surprised that he could understand him now. Wait, I can understand you, Percy said in astonishment. Like I said, he's an idiot, Kyuubi said with a sigh. Yup, now I don't have to do those poses again, Naruto said as he ignored the Kyuubi. That's good to hear. Those poses you did were kind of stupid looking, Percy said as he changed his sword back into a pen. You seem friendly. I'm Percy Jackson, by the way. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto took the hand of Percy that he stuck out for a handshake. That's a funny name, Percy said. So it the name Percy, Naruto retorted. Touché. So you have anything to eat in this town? I haven't eaten for a while now, Percy asked as his stomach growled. Yeah. I can take you to this place that serves the greatest ramen in the world. What's ramen? Percy asked as Naruto froze. Naruto looked at Percy with big eyes. You don't know what ramen is? He saw Percy shake his head. Naruto looked up into the sky and said a small prayer of forgiveness to the ramen gods at the insult that has been said to the foreigner. He looked back at Percy and put a hand on his shoulder. I must correct this mistake at once, Naruto said with a serious face, causing Percy to sweat a little. The next thing Percy knows is that the both of them disappeared in a flash of yellow. With Athena and Shikamaru were casually walking around the village as Shikamaru was pointing out landmarks, food shops and different shops. Athena was paying attention to everything that Shikamaru was saying. Her curiosity and fascination of this dimension keeping her attention on him. She never noticed that a while ago Shikamaru made several hand signs that were made for the Anbu and any allied forces to keep an eye on her and him and to help out whenever she became a threat. Thank you for showing me around, Shikamaru. That was really kind of you, Athena signed to him. It's no problem, Shikamaru signed back. So what brings you to Konoha, by the way? I was looking for a long-lost sibling of mine that I just recently learned I have. Who are you looking for? I might have met them, Shikamaru asked as he took them to a shop that was selling dangos. He saw that there was also a shogi board. Well, I only his name, Athena signed as she took a seat on one side of the shogi board that Shikamaru took them to. She saw Shikamaru tell a passing server something before he went back looking at her. So what's his name? His name is Naruto. I don't know his last name though. I don't believe that I know him, Shikamaru signed while he was thinking of all the possibilities on why she wants to meet Naruto. Oh, that is too bad. I guess my quest continues, Athena signed with a fake disappointment. She had a feeling that he was lying to her. So what is this in front of us? Oh, this is a shogi board, Shikamaru signed as he received 2 drinks from the server. He handed one to Athena. She nodded in thanks. Do you want to play a friendly game? Shikamaru was already setting up the board as he assumed that she would say yes. Athena had a glint in her eye as she nodded. She couldn't say no to a friendly game now, can she? With Lee and Aries, thunderous sounds could be heard in the training ground. The trees shook violently as fists were hitting flesh. All around the training field, the thunderous sounds were being made. 2 figures appeared in the sky as one of them was kicked in the chest and crashed into the ground. The body crashed into the ground, making a crater. The person that crashed was Lee. He climbed out of the crater as he shook his head and popped his back. Aries landed nearby and had a smug look on his face. Yosh. That was a good warm-up, Lee yelled happily as he pumped both his fists in the air. That was a good fight. Though I am disappointed if that is all that you are capable of doing, Aries said as he stood watching Lee stretching himself. Though he saw a slight twitch that Lee had. UDOUDT my abilities. I will show you my youthfulness, Lee yelled with massive fire in his eyes, his fist shaking at Aries in rage. I have no idea what you just said, but if you're going to fight me, don't disappoint me again, Aries said while getting into a light stance, thinking nothing big is going to happen. Youth, Lee yelled as he started to activate the first chakra gates within him. Aries started before he was instantly punched in the face. Aries' body started to crash through the trees before Lee appeared behind him and kicked him in the air at high speed. Aries gritted his teeth as he tried to angle his body to throw an attack but couldn't as Lee continued appearing behind him and attacking him in the air like a pinball. Lee continued before he appeared above Aries and slammed his fist into Aries' face, causing him to crash into the ground. Lee landed and crossed his arms as he looked at the down Aries with a serious expression. Lee knew that wouldn't stop that man. Aries' body started to become engulfed in fire as he started to rise. His eyes were burning with anger as he looked at Lee. Aries stood up at his full height as he raised his right arm. His sword that was in the ground away from him flew towards his hand. When he caught it, Lee saw the sword transformed into a spear. Aries twirled the spear expertly before getting in a ready stance. Lee just continued to stare at Aries as he activated the third chakra gate as he felt his muscle starting to bulge and his veins starting to show around his arms and forehead. The two of them soon disappeared and each started to attack each other. They were blurs in the area. Lee had twisted his body to the side to dodge a thrust from the spear. Lee grabbed the shaft of the spear to pull it forwards and give him some momentum as he tried to throw a kick to Aries' head. Aries though leaned his head back so that the kick just barely missed his face and used his free hand to grab Lee's ankle. Aries then pulled Lee to slam him against the ground, but Lee used his hands to stop himself from hitting the ground and caused cracks to form on the ground. Lee used his strength to get Aries' grip off his ankle and also spun himself to kick Aries in the side. Aries quickly brought his spear to his side to block Lee's kick. Lee pushed himself off the ground to get him some room away from Aries.
The both of them got back into their stances before they started attacking again. Aries noticed that the person that he was attacking, his skin changed red and his eyes lost its pupils as they only showed white. His veins were bulging more as Aries felt more power behind the attacks from the person, causing him to be more defensive.
"You are annoying me," Aries said as he continued block Lee's flurry of combination of kicks and punches. Lee started to yell as he started to throw his punches faster and faster as flames started to form around his fists. Aries was having a hard time to block the punches till he was getting hit over and over all over his body as he was starting to get surrounded by fire from the punches. Lee then yelled out "Morning P" as he sent one last punch towards Aries' chest. Aries held in his scream of pain as he was pushed back from the blow, his body engulfed in flames that weren't flames but from the aura that Lee had was burning him. Aries raised his spear before slamming it against the ground and flared power to extinguish the flames. He looked down to see that he had slight burns but they were already healing. Aries looked at Lee again as he readied his shield and also brought out his shield. Aries banged his spear against his shield as he let out a war yell and started to charge at Lee again. Lee watched and dodged Aries' attack upon him as he saw that his anger was making him sloppy, his swings all wild and crazed and not precise and efficient like before. Though Lee still had to dodge the attacks as he saw the power behind the swings as there was significant air pressure after every swing. Lee decided that opening the fifth gate would help. So Lee used one foot to land a kick on Aries' shield and use it as a place to vault up into the air and away from Aries. Lee landed and crossed his arms in front of him and his hair started to rise as he released the fifth gate. Green aura started to surround his body and some pieces of the ground started to rise around him. He could feel his muscles start to strain from all the power going through him. He still needed to train more to get better at not getting too tired from the 5th through 7 gates. My version of Lee is that he was able to go the 7th gate with Might Guy but not the 8th. Lee then got in a horse stance with his arms still crossed as more of his aura started to glow around him as the 6th gate was opened. Lee let out a sigh as he was looking at Aries with his pupil-less eyes. While Aries and Lee were at a standoff, Sasuke casually walked up to the battlefield as he was curious of the massive chakra spike that he sensed. Sasuke leaned against a tree as he was going to watch the fight. Though he was looking bored as looked at the two fighting. This is boring to watch, but it's better than being around Sakura trying to get a date out of me, he thought as he started to feel shockwaves from Lee and the other guys attacking hitting each other. Though he did comment to himself that it was nothing like fighting Kaguya. At the dango shop, this person is giving me a very challenging match. Athena thought to herself as she was deciding on what move she would do next. Currently Athena and Shikamaru were in the middle of an intense shogi match. They were very careful and calculative on what move they are going to do next. Athena noticed whenever that she had made a difficult move against Shikamaru, he did this weird pose while forming a circle with his hands for a few seconds before he made the next move. Athena had to actually double-check her decision before she played her next move. Shikamaru was enjoying the challenge but he noticed that Athena was a much harder opponent than she let on. He clearly saw that her moves were more elaborate and well planned out. He also noticed the slight eyebrow twitch when she in deep thought on what she is going to play next. The both of them didn't notice the crowd that had gathered around them. There was even a betting going around on who would win. This has been a very good match. I haven't had this much fun in a while. Athena signed as she was about to make her next move. Yeah, you're right, it has been a while that I had a match like this. Shikamaru signed. Though I think it's time that we end this. So I say we just make 10-second moves. Agreed? I'm fine with that. Athena signed, thinking that she was going to win now after planning out her moves in her head, assuming what moves he was going to do. With that, Shikamaru started to speed up his moves, as did Athena. At first Athena was smirking as she saw the moves being played out exactly as she thought they would. But her smirk soon fell as she noticed that the movies were not going a part of her plan. His moves were becoming more sporadic the more moves they made. Soon Athena noticed that she was losing more peace till she noticed that she was with her king left surrounded by all of his pawns. Athena was trying to figure out where she made her mistakes earlier. Shikamaru though had his arms crossed as he made a few signals to the newbie ninjas to fall back as he had the situation under control. He saw that Athena didn't really care about her moves once he started doing spontaneous moves. Shikamaru took a closer look at Athena when he noticed her hair flashed briefly for a second from brown to black before going back to black. Shikamaru closed his eyes, ignoring the groans and cheers from the crowd them. He looked at her again and signed. Well, looks like my win. Indeed it is, good game. Athena signed as she signed in displeasure. So want to play another game? Actually, I must look for my sibling. If you will excuse me. Athena signed hurriedly as she noticed that she played for an hour now. She quickly got up and started to leave. Shikamaru just stared at her as he continued to watch her leave. He gave a sigh and took out a cigarette and was about to light it before he placed a hand behind his head and got up. Troublesome woman, he said as he casually started to walk while looking at the clouds above him. Shikamaru then did a one-hand seal that meant something to all the ninja around him. They knew the hand seal that he showed as it was only used when there is an important target in the village. All the Anbu immediately dispersed as the other ninja started to disappear as well following the Anbu. Shikamaru then just blew out a stream of smoke from his mouth as he casually left. He started to walk off towards the general area Athena left to as he was thinking on how he wished he just went to his favorite spot to watch the clouds. At Ichiraku. You understand now what ramen is, right? Naruto asked as he watched Percy eating his first bowl of ramen. He assumed that he would become another ramen lover like him. Yeah. Though honestly I don't see what's so great about, and to be honest it is a little salty. Percy said as he stopped eating his bowl for a minute to give his opinion on it. Naruto had a look of hurt on his face. He had a hand on his heart as though it was struck by a Chidori again. The chef though didn't really mind on what the boy said. They had to take criticism on a daily basis, but it never really got to him. Naruto was trying to comprehend on what Percy just said to him while the Kyuubi just started laughing inside his mind. Oh my Kami, this is great. I actually found an idiot that hates ramen. Oh Kami, this is great. Hey Kit, can I come out to congratulate him on not liking ramen? The Kyuubi asked in his mind. How can you say that about the food that all gods eat? Naruto asked frantically as he shut the Kyuubi out of his head. He had more pressing things to take care of. Well, for one thing, I'm not a real fan of soup stuff, also the noodles taste funny. The meat is fine and all, but isn't this food unhealthy for you to begin with? Percy said as he was counting off on what he didn't like about it. Naruto for the second time today held his chest in pain as he heard the word coming out of Percy's mouth. The Kyuubi was though laughing his furry butt off in his head. Naruto was at a loss for words. Everyone he knew, and that was basically the whole elemental nations, they all liked ramen and never said anything bad about it. Well, maybe his Ba-chan and Sakura-chan, but they didn't count, they were doctors so they knew the actual nutritional value. But this kid was a ramen hater. Naruto knew he had to do one thing about it. Naruto's eyes were covered by his hair as he looked down. Perry started to get a weird feeling in his stomach as he went back to finishing his ramen. What he may not have liked it, but he didn't like wasting his food. When he was almost done he left some in the bowl and asked the chef if he had a fireplace he could use. The chef looked at him weirdly but said that he could use his fire oven in the back. Percy nodded and went to the back with his bowl of ramen. When he got to the fire he gave a small payer to his father and threw the rest of his food in the fire. Bad move though, as he felt an iron-like grip on his shoulder. He turned around to see a very angry Naruto looking at him. Naruto was able to take a lot of things that would bother most. Like people calling him an idiot or back when he was younger calling him a demon. But when it came to ramen, he took no shit from anyone. He could have let it slide if they were his, as he knew they were joking. Most of the time. But he saw the most disrespectful act done to the holy Ramen. "You have committed the ultimate sin," Naruto yelled as he gripped Percy's neck. "What? Ak? You don't understand. Let me, Ak, explain," Percy said as he was trying to get Naruto's grip off his neck. "You must be punished," Naruto said with his voice sounding like it was possessed. He lifted Percy up into the air and threw him hard to the Hokage tower. It wasn't his intention, but hey, it could just give him another reason to bug Tsunade about giving him the position. Naruto heard Percy screaming before crashing head first into the tower. Naruto cracked his knuckles as he put the money on the counter to pay for the food. He also put a little extra money for the chef. "Here you go, old man. I'm sorry for the insult that has fallen upon this divine establishment. Here is some money as forgiveness for the insult." The ramen chef just waved him off and trying to tell Naruto to not kill the boy. Naruto gave a boy to him and then to the stand before he disappeared within a flash and a Rasengan in his hand. Hokage Tower Tsunade was currently having a relaxing time in her office. She had finished her paperwork early. Kakashi was already informed on who was the next Hokage, and she just got out her secret stash of sake that she had gotten from the Land of Iron. It was expensive, but it was all worth it in her eyes. She just poured her first cup and was about to drink it before the wall on her left exploded and a body started to fly through and crash into the other wall. Tsunade was still in her pose of about to drink her sake, but her cup was gone on the floor broken, and also her bottle of sake was on the floor was well broken with all her sake spilled on the floor. She didn't move at all, but her body was shaking as she continued to stay in her position. She noticed that Naruto also flashed in as he was yelling in rage and was going to slam a Rasengan into the person that flew through her office. "For Ramen," Naruto yelled as he slammed his Rasengan towards Percy's body. Percy though rolled to the side to dodge the attack. Percy brought out his pen and uncapped to draw his word. "Dude, it was only a small amount food," Percy yelled as he dodged a rock the size of his head being thrown at him. "Die," Naruto yelled. As he threw another, Percy was about to crash into him before he was hit in the head very hard with a stapler. The force was strong enough for the stapler to actually put a stapler into his forehead and crack his skull and crash into the other wall. Naruto was about to take advantage of the distraction before he was bet with a fist on the top of his head and had him crash to through the ground and into the floor under them. The ninja in the office below didn't even flinch at what happened and just continued doing their work. Tsunade had a giant tick mark on her head as her fist was smoking from punching Naruto. Percy had absolute fear in his eyes as he saw this. He had one last thought in his mind before he saw black. "Why the hell does this always happen to me?" Few hours later. We now see a bandaged up Percy sitting on a couch, Naruto with a giant lump on his head as he was sitting on the ground, arms crossed and grumbling about disrespecting Ramen and such. The wall was already getting repaired by a ninja as Tsunade was rubbing her head behind her desk. She had to look away from her now broken sake bottle. "Now Naruto, do you mind telling me why the hell did you throw this, Mr. Tsunade started as she pointed at Percy. "Percy Jackson, ma'am," Percy said politely as he was holding his bandaged head. "Right, Mr. Jackson through my office. He disrespected Ramen," Naruto said heatedly. Tsunade for her part just threw a paperweight at Naruto, who dodged it and let it hit Percy in the face again, and he held his face from the pain. "Naruto, for the last time, don't get mad at people for not liking ramen," Tsunade responded in a scolding tone. "Ramen is the food of the gods, they must be respected," Naruto yelled. Before Tsunade could say anything, the hole was current being rebuilt was broken again when Lee busted through the hole as he was covered in bruises and cuts, was holding an unconscious Aries over his shoulder. Tsunade banged her head on her desk as Lee dropped Aries on the floor. This caused Percy have his jaw dropped as he saw Aries knocked out by a mortal. Though it kind of made him feel better from that he wasn't the only person to fight and win against Aries. "Yosh! Tsunade, I have defeated this intruder that has appeared with the power of youth," Lee yelled. "Thank you. Lee, go to the hospital to go get yourself healed up," Tsunade said with a tired voice. Lee gave a salute to her and yelled out youth the whole time as he ran through the hole he made again and head towards the hospital. Tsunade took out a piece of paper and started to write something on it. She looked up to see that Naruto was still glaring daggers at Percy and that Percy finding the wall very interesting to ignore the glare he was get. When she finished writing, he dropped it into her desk to hand to Shizune later. She heard a knock and she yelled for them to let them in. She saw that Shikamaru was coming with a woman in tow. Shikamaru, who is this? Tsunade said. This Hokage-sama is the last person that appeared that came with these two. He said as he led Athena to the couch. She didn't fight him really, she was peaceful and went with him when he asked. Naruto, do you think you can put a seal on them so they can understand us? Shikamaru asked as he pointed at Athena in the knocked out Aries. Naruto nodded as he brought out a small paper and started to quickly write the same seal that he had put on Percy. When he finished he put chakra into them and placed on Aries' armor and the other he handed Athena hers and pointed to place on her arm. So how long till they will understand us? Shikamaru asked. About 5 seconds. Naruto said as he did a countdown in his head. Wait, so they will understand us now? Percy asked. How are pieces of paper able to do that? Sealing. Was all Naruto said as he pointed at Athena, whose faces morphed into surprised as she was able to understand them now. Remarkable. Was the first thing that Athena said as she started to examine the paper in fascination. Now that I don't have to sign anymore, what are you three doing here and who are you people? Shikamaru asked. Athena looked at the people in the room, deciding whether or not she should revile what they are doing here. So far, it hasn't been going well. With a sigh, gave a small nod to herself. I am Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom. The man on the floor is Ares, the Greek god of war. The child is Percy Jackson, a demigod of Poseidon. We are here because of our king and queen's orders to have Naruto brought back to them. Athena said to them. Why do they want Naruto? Tsunade asked as A narrowed her eyes at them now. Because Naruto is the son of Zeus and Hera, the king and queen of the Greek gods, she said. The room was silent for a bit as the word hung in the air. The next thing that happened was Naruto getting up and stretching with a while on his face. So what you're saying is that my parents are alive, correct? Naruto asked her. Yes, they are. Athena confirmed. Good to know, except there is one thing about what you just said, Naruto said before he looked at Tsunade and she gave the ever slightest nods. Naruto looked back at Athena with a huge smile on his face. Oh, and what is that? Athena asked as she tilted her head to the side. Naruto continued to smile as A just started at him. The next thing she knew was that she was punched hard into the jaw and felt her body fly through the wall of the building and crash to the ground below. She groaned and looked up at the ground as she had one hand on her jaw. She saw Naruto with his sage mode on while he was cracking his knuckles. My parents are dead, was all he said as he got ready to fight the goddess of wisdom head-on. Athena had to roll to her side quickly as Naruto just instantly appeared in front of her with his fist at back. Naruto's fist hit the ground, causing the ground to shake and make the buildings around him shake violently and the windows to break. Tsunade and Shikamaru appeared next to Naruto and each had a hand on his should. Naruto for his part was looking straight at Athena with a blank stare while she was crouched low with her body at the ready if he attacked again. Naruto, calm down before you go destroying the village, Tsunade said in her more Hokage-like tone. She's right, Naruto, we don't want to rebuild the village. Again, Shikamaru said while taking a drag from his cigarette. Then what can I do? I really want to kick her ass and then send them back to wherever they are from since they aren't from this dimension. Naruto said as she crossed his arms in front of his chest. No lies to me about my parents, no one. I have an idea, Athena said as she stood up but still had her guard up. And what would that be? Tsunade asked cautiously, trying to reduce the damage as much as possible. How about a bet? If I win, you give me time to explain myself and prove to you that I am not lying, Athena said. And what happens if you lose? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. As unlikely that is going to be, but I will humor you. If you guys win, you can send me and my group back to our dimension, Athena said, thinking that with two gods on her side and a very high combat proficient demigod on their side, it seemed almost impossible to lose. Actually, if you guys lose, you all will pay me a year's worth ramen and you guys can explain yourself. Then you guys can go home, Naruto said as he felt the gaze of Tsunade on him. Naruto, why not kick them out? It would save us a lot of trouble on just beating them and sending them on their way, Tsunade said. Well, I'm kind of curious on what they had to say and I did kind of punch her first. Oh Kami, he is curious, the world is ending again, Shikamaru said. Shush you. Anyways, I feel bad on attacking first than listening to them. So we don't have to kick them out unless we have to, Naruto said with a smile. You sure you want to change the bet like that? Athena asked as she dropped her guard a little. Yeah, I'm sure. That's my apology for the punching you, Naruto said as he waved at the matter. So what is the bet? Shikamaru said as he shook his head at Naruto's relaxed state. I proposed a fight between my group against a group of yours. You can have as many people you want, Athena said. Naruto, you are not allowed to fight, Tsunade and Shikamaru said at the same time. What, why not? Naruto whined. You are living cheat code along with Sasuke, which would be unfair against them, Shikamaru explained. You can't possibly believe that he can defeat all of us himself, do you? That is simply impossible, Athena said with disbelieving tone. She believed that these people had too much faith in one person. Oh, how wrong she would be proven soon. Come on guys, there is another non-believer, Naruto said as he pointed at Athena. Athena, would you care if we had two teams go against you guys? Shikamaru asked as he was feeling a headache coming on. Like I said, bring as many as you want. 2 teams or 100 teams, you will not be able to defeat us, Athena said with a bit of innocence in her voice. Tsunade had an eye twitch as she felt that Athena was mocking their power. Now she couldn't have that and had to prove her wrong. She was thinking of what teams she would use against them. One was Team 7, or now being called at the moment, Team Badass. Tsunade shivered at the amount of destruction that would happen if she unleashed them. That was the first team since she knew Naruto was going to annoy the shit out of her before she said yes. The problem, who would be the second team? Team Guy was down a member, and the same with Team Kurenai. The only other complete team would be Team Asuma. Tsunade looked at Shikamaru with a raised eyebrow. When Shikamaru looked at her, the eyes he gave her had a lazy stare. Troublesome. Do I have to? Shikamaru asked. Do you want me to make Tamari persuade you to participate? Tsunade countered with a knowing smirk. Shikamaru shivered at the thought and glared at her. Without anything else to say, he nodded and started walking towards one of the flower shops. Naruto for his part was still poking and bugging Tsunade on letting him fight them to prove the non-believers. Naruto, shut up, Tsunade yelled as she slammed her fist into his head. Naruto's face crashed into the ground with smoke coming off his head. Athena, why don't you take your team to the Chunin arena? I will have Anbu escort you. Athena nodded, though she had a sweat drop form on her head as she saw Tsunade grab Naruto by his hair and started dragging him behind her towards the Hokage tower. Athena shook her head before she too started heading back to the tower to go get her team and prepare them for the fight she thought was going to be a breeze. Oh, how she was going to regret this for years to come. Chunin arena. We now see Percy, Athena and the now awoken Aries in the center of the Chunin arena. Across of them were 2 groups of people. The first group consisted of Naruto wearing just a black shirt, his orange pants and black sandals. Sakura was wearing her usual outfit just without her white coat, and Sasuke as he was wearing his long sleeve black shirt with the right sleeve cut off as he didn't have that arm anymore. His sword was strapped to the back of his hips with his black ninja pants and black ninja sandals. The second group was Shikamaru group with 2 people they didn't recognize. The first person on the right of Shikamaru was a man that was wearing a red full body suit with gray armor plates on his chest, on his forearms and on his shins. There was also a kanji for food on his chest. He was wearing his black shinobi sandals. He also was eating a bag of barbecue chips. This was Choji Akamichi. The person on the left of Shikamaru was a woman that had blonde hair that had her bang covering the right of her face. The length of her hair was also long enough to go just a little past her hips. She was wearing a purple tank top that showed her well-developed breasts well and show her toned stomach well. On her arms she simply had on some fishnet warmers on her elbows. She was also wearing a purple skirt that was open in the front that revealed she had on a black skirt underneath with fishnet shorts. She also had on some fishnet warmers on her knees with her black sandals. This was Ino Yamanaka. Tsunade was in the middle of the group along with a man that was wearing a standard outfit for ninja that consisted of the green flask jacket, black long-sleeve shirt, gray ninja pants and black sandals. The person also had silver gravity-defying hair. Tsunade was also with a wheelchair-bound person wearing a green bodysuit with a bowl haircut and massive eyebrows that looked like as though they were alive. He also had on orange leg warmers with his black shinobi sandals. They were Kakashi Hatake and Mighty Guy. Yosh. This fight will be most youthful. Where is Lee, by the way? Guy asked to his friend and also rival. You say something, Guy? Kakashi said as he looked up from his book to show his left eye had a vertical scar. Gah. Curse you Kakashi and your hip attitude. Guy said with fire in his eyes and shake one of his fist at him. Tsunade covered her eyes with one of her hands and thanked Kame she was stepping down tomorrow and passing on the madness to someone else. She shook her head before getting back on track. Alright Athena, we have brought you 2 teams to fight. The first one to fight you is Team Asuma. Do you still abide to your agreements before we start the fight? Yes I do, though I am disappointed that you seem to think that only 6 people are able to stop us. But you all will learn so enough. Athena said as he made her spear appear in her hand. What I want is the guy wearing green. He knows how to fight, Aries said. Even though you got your ass kicked by him you brute? Athena questioned. Aries growled and didn't say anything as he got out his sword again. Percy didn't say anything as he was trying to figure out how he should fight. Athena didn't really say on what he had to do as she mostly just talked to Aries about the plan. Maybe he was going to be used as distraction again. Hopefully they don't throw him again. Tsunade looked at Shikamaru and his team while Athena's group looked like they were ready. Shikamaru, is your team ready? Tsunade asked them. This is really troublesome. Can't we just forfeit and have team overpowered over there just fight them to win this? Shikamaru said as he placed his hands in his pocket and slouched. What is wrong with you? We should fight them to show them that we aren't weak. Geez, after the war you gotten lazier. Ino yelled at him. Well Munch, I think we shouldn't munch fight. Choji said as he was eating his chips happily. Hey look, the fat ass said something smart, Aries said with a laugh. Choji froze and Shikamaru along with Ino all groaned. Choji just glared at Aries. Naruto started to bust up laughing as he was walking towards the wall of the arena and took his brush out and started writing on the walls. Oi Choji! Naruto yelled as he was writing a seal. He knew Choji heard him even though he wasn't looking at him. Kick his ass and show him how awesome you are. Choji grunted in response as Shikamaru sighed. What a drag, fine we are ready now. Shikamaru said as he took out another cigarette for the headache that was about to form. Tsunade yelled Hajime before she and Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Guy for his part just rolled himself up the wall to the stands with his freaky arm strength and speed. Naruto finished making his seal and activated it to make sure the arena didn't get too destroyed and will rebuild itself in about 2 to 4 days a week, the most depending on the damage that is about to take place. Sasuke just leaned against the wall as Sakura stood next to him and started casually talking to him. The two of them didn't notice that Naruto sent a couple of clones through the village to bring people over to watch the battles. Athena and Aries stood at the ready while Percy hung back waiting for one of them to tell him what to do.
He decided that charging in head first wasn't going to be the best idea. Unless he had Annabeth, then he would have to try and impress her. Shikamaru took the cigarette out of his mouth and put it on his right ear as he waved at Choji to go first. Ino didn't complain as this is how they usually did this. Aries though didn't wait long as he was the first to charge at the group. Athena covered her eyes as she predicted that Aries would have charged in and forgetting about the plan they agreed to.
Choji took that as his K to attack as he jumped into the air and started to go through some hand signs. As Aries got close, Choji finished the last hand sign and yelled out partial multi-size jutsu. Now Aries was confused as to why he said that. Aries thinking that swinging his sword at Choji, it would change his focus from his technique to block the incoming attack. Instead Aries was met with a giant-size fist hitting him in the face and chest, causing him to crash head first into the ground. Choji didn't end it there as he then made a hand sign and made his whole torso huge like a ball. He tucked in his head, arms and legs in and he started spinning at high speeds. The giant ball that was Choji then crashed into the down Aries. Aries at this point was gritting his teeth as he couldn't move and he felt his body feel like he was getting grounded into little pieces. Aries closed his eyes as he started channeling his power into his armor and started to heat it up to extreme temperatures that a normal human couldn't handle. Too bad he was facing against a seasoned shinobi as Aries felt the pressure increase more. Aries growled in his head as he tried to increase the temperature more. Aries felt his skin starting to burn itself as he raised the temperature more. He sighed in relief as he felt the pressure leave his body. Choji had spun off Aries' body and rolled back to Shikamaru and Ino and turned back to his normal size. He was quickly patting his chest armor as there was a spot that was bright red from both the friction from the rotation and the heat that Aries caused. Well, that happened. Choji said casually. Did you notice anything? Shikamaru asked as he stayed slouched and looked uncaring. Besides the fact that he is an asshole? Choji said as he was stretching his back. Yes, besides that. Well, I noticed that he was already getting mad when he couldn't get an attack in, and he was also the first from their group to react the fastest. Choji said as he went back glaring at Aries. So short-tempered and impulsive. Shikamaru thought as he nodded at Choji. So my turn? Ino asked as she was buffing her nails with a kunai. Sure, why not? Shikamaru said casually. Ino smiled and walked towards the group as he looked at the group. She noticed that Athena was looking at her with a calculative gaze and the two guys were staring more at her body. Well, Aries was. Percy was looking the other way with only small-timed glances at her assets. She raised a finger as she was making a hand sign. The group tensed and got ready before Ino smiled. They looked confused for a second before Percy lost control of his body and started to swing his sword at the two gods. Percy. What is the meaning of this? Athena asked in outrage. It's now me, I swear. Percy said frantically as he couldn't control his body. Boy, I will behead you if you are lying to us. Aries said as he blocked a strike from the boy. I swear on the sticks. Percy said quickly as the sky rumbled with thunder. Athena quickly looked at Ino as she also saw her making another hand sign as Percy soon fell over as he got control over his body again. Athena didn't know what happened, but the next thing she knows the area around her turned black. She looked around her and trying to figure out where she was. I wonder what these words mean. Athena heard behind her. She quickly turned around with her spear at the ready and she saw Ino just looking through multiple Greek scrolls while standing there. Where are we? Where did you take us? Athena demanded. Oh, calm down, we are just in your mind. You are very organized, by the way. Ino said casually as she continued to look through the scrolls. It made it easier to the information. Too bad I can't read whatever long the scrolls are in. What do you mean this my mind? How is this possible? Athena questioned as she threw her spear at Ino. It doesn't matter at this point, I got what I needed. Ino's body disappeared before the spear could hit her. Athena saw the world around her turn back to normal. She looked around quickly and saw that Percy was knocked out and Aries was looking angrily at the boy. She turned back to Ino, who was already walking back to her team. What did you find out? Shikamaru asked. Well, for one thing, what they said was true, they aren't from this dimension. Second, her head reminds me of you, very organized and neat in the head. I would also assume she is the thinker of the group and has a lot of experience at making or directing plans from the whole mountain of battle plans that she had in there as well. Though I noticed that they were really simple-minded plans and not very imaginative like the ones you were able to make. Ino told Shikamaru. So another strategist. Not that really surprising after playing her in shogi. Shikamaru said as he scratched the back of his head. Okay, which plan should we use? Shikamaru asked them. Why don't you just immobilize them and give up so we can show them true power? Sasuke said on the side without much emotion. Or we could just give up altogether. Shikamaru started before he was swatted in the back of his head with a frying pan. Ow. What the woman? We are not giving up unless we actually capture them, not before. Got it? Ino yelled at him with her frying pan that she got from who knows where. Troublesome blonde. Fine. Shikamaru said while rubbing the forming lump on his head. Let us go with Formation 3. Ino and Choji nodded as Shikamaru started walking towards the other group with his hands still in his pockets. Shikamaru stopped just a few feet away from them. So will you guys just quit so I can just go watch the clouds or hide from my already mad girlfriend? Shikamaru asked lazily. No, we will not, boy. You are up against two gods. What hope do you have to even stop us? Aries said as he brought out his shield and slammed his sword against it. Shikamaru shook his head as he put the cigarette he had on his ear and lit it and took a drag as he gave the go-ahead. Choji and Ino jumped in different directions as Shikamaru just stood there slouching as Athena and Aries start to charge at him at high speeds. Shikamaru just stood there calmly as he saw the two gods jump into the air. Athena was about to throw her spear at him as Aries was changing his sword into a dual desert eagles. Aries started firing his bullets at Shikamaru. Shikamaru just stood there as the bullets sailed past him. As that was going on, Athena turned her head to look up into the sky when she noticed the sky darken a little. Her eyes widened at what she saw. Aries, brace yourself. Athena, she yelled as she transformed into an owl and quickly made a sharp left to dodge. What do you mean brace myself? We're about to kill him. Aries yelled out before he finally noticed the sky was darker. He looked up to see a giant hand above him.
Ares's body then was pushed into the ground by the giant hand that belonged to a giant-sized Choji that was towering over everyone. Shikamaru just took a step to the left when a spear was coming straight at him. Choji quickly swung his hand at Athena that was transforming between an owl and her human body quickly. Shikamaru noticed that her spear would disappear and reappear instantly.
Athena was trying to figure out a new way to stop the giant man that was there while taking out one of them at the same time. Choji was trying to trap Athena to the ground, but it wasn't going well. So Choji started channeling chakra to both of his hands. Ino. Shikamaru. Incoming shockwave, Choji said as he clapped his chakra-filled hands. Ino from her hiding spot poured chakra into her feet to stay rooted into her spot, and Shikamaru just hopped onto Choji's pants leg and held tight. The results were that it caused a massive shockwave from the force alone, making the body of Percy, Aries and Athena in her owl form to fly back into the Chunin arena wall. The force of the slam caused Athena to turn back into her human form. Shikamaru just watched, kind of bored of the whole thing. He jumped off Choji's pants leg. As he stood up, the shadow under him started to darken and widen under Shikamaru. Shikamaru still had his hands in his pockets as he tilted his head forward, and the shadow under him started to head towards Aries and Athena. Shikamaru knew that Ino was taking care of the boy at the moment. Shikamaru made his shadow make multiple tendrils as it was heading towards them. Athena's eyes widened as she jumped away from it, and Aries rolled to the side and started running as the shadow tendrils were following him. Athena, thinking quickly, she landed on the seats in the arena. She watched in fascination as the shadows continued to follow Aries around the arena like a bloodhound. Athena was trying to formulate a plan as she was quickly dodging the shadow that was following her as well. She jumped down to the arena. She threw her spear at Shikamaru's head, thinking that it would break his concentration. Shikamaru saw the spear heading towards his head as incredible speeds. Though it was speed that most experienced shinobi were used to. Shikamaru saw a spear was about to skewer him till he tilted his head to the left of the spear just nicked him in the cheek. The spear stuck itself on the ground behind him and then instantly disappeared a second later. He saw that Athena made her spear reappeared in her hand. Athena was already ready to throw her spear again, but she hesitated when she heard a hissing sound nearby. She looked around till she realized that the hissing was coming from her spear. She examined her spear to see a piece of paper was stuck onto it and it was burning itself up. She soon realized that it was about to explode, and she her spear away from her. Her spear soon was engulfed in flames as the paper exploded. Athena waved the smoke out of her face from the explosion. She summoned her spear and she saw it was fine, though it was covered in black soot. Athena turned to look at Shikamaru only to see him right in front of her with his face just inches from hers. She tried to punch him quickly to put some distance between them, but he just leaned his body back, so her fist just swung past him. He then nodded his head to make the shadows shoot out at her. Athena back-flipped to dodge the attack. She didn't realize that she back-flipped right in front of Ino, who had a hand sign up. Before Athena realized what she did, she felt her body freeze up. Athena tried to regain her control of her body, but she couldn't. She saw that she was forced to turn around and saw Ino smiling at her. Ino waved, causing Athena to do the same. Athena again tried to regain her control of her body, but the results were the same. Athena made another hand seal, which made Athena jump down and charged straight at Aries with wide eyes. Athena just watched silently as her body was forced to fight against Aries. She saw herself thrust her spear at Aries and then twisted her body to the side to dodge the bullets that were being shot at her. She soon started spinning her spear fast enough to deflect the bullets being fired at her. When Aries ran out of bullets, Athena was forced to throw her spear at Aries and then jump into the air with a sword appearing in her hand above her. Aries dodged and changed his guns into his sword and quickly raised it above him to block her powerful swing. The ground cracked a little from the force. The next thing the both of them knew was that Aries was frozen stiff and Athena stopped her assault. The both of them were forced to look down to see that their shadows under them were connected to each other, and it led straight to Shikamaru. They felt their bodies move on their own so that they had their swords at each other's throat. Shikamaru let them look up, which they saw that Choji in his gigantic form had his fist reared back at the ready with chakra already coating his fist. Then Shikamaru had turned his head to let Athena and Aries see that Ino was nearby with a kunai in each hand at the ready to be thrown at them, with her standing above the still unconscious Percy. Capture successes. Shikamaru said simply. Now there's just one more thing to do. Shikamaru moved his arms forward some to put more pressure on each of the gods' throats to make them sweat and close their eyes, trying to fight the control on them. They felt the presence of the hold on them and they tried to destroy it quickly as they felt their blood to trail down their necks slowly. Okay, we give up. Shikamaru said loudly. Athena and Aries opened their eyes in surprise as the hold on their body was released. They quickly turned to look at Shikamaru already heading to the doors with Choji and Ino in tow. Hokage-sama, I'm leaving for the rest of the day, you can tell Tamari I'll be at the usual spot. Shikamaru yelled out while give a wave. Ino was shaking her head and Choji was once again munching on chips and was following his longtime friend to the spot. Tsunade had a sweat drop on her head as she was declaring the first match over. As Team Asuma left, Athena and Aries were trying to figure out why in the world they let them go when they could have ended it already. Granted, they would have been revived in a few years. They went over to check Percy quickly to see he would be able to be of some use in their next fight. When they checked on him, they both scowled as they found out he wasn't knocked out at all. They rolled him over and saw that there was a piece of paper on his chest. They took it off him and saw Percy jump up quickly with his sword drawn. Now I got. Wait, what happened to that woman? Percy asked as he looked around confused. Apparently that woman had you immobilized with a piece of paper. Aries said as he grabbed Percy by the neck and raised him off his feet. Percy was gripping Aries' wrist as he was starting to have a hard time breathing. Aries was tightening his grip as he was glaring at him. After a few seconds Aries dropped Percy on the ground as he was rubbing his neck to soothe the pain. You, boy, are useless. How you bested me I will never know, Aries said with a growl. Well, why don't we fight again and I can show you, Percy said with an edge in his voice with his sword at the ready. Aries growled at him as he got his sword at the ready with a blood-thirsty look in his eyes. Athena stood in between them with her hands out. She was glaring at both of them as the tensions were rising. While that was happening, Team 7 watched the whole thing happen. Naruto chuckled to himself as both of his teammates looked at him. What's so funny, dope? Sasuke asked. They remind me of our team when we were genin, Naruto said. HN. Was all the Uchiha's response to that. Oh Naruto, Sasuke, when are you two going to get your arms replaced? Sakura asked while she was stretching a little bit. I'm scheduled to see if I can with Tsunade tomorrow. Sasuke? Naruto said as he turned his head to look at Sasuke. I'm not going to get one, Sasuke said. Why? Sakura asked. Their emo teammate didn't say anything as he just stayed quiet. Sakura looked at Naruto for an explanation and he just shrugged his shoulders. So how you guys want to do this? Team fight or individual targets? Naruto asked as he popped his neck. I don't really care, Sakura said as she crossed her arms. Sasuke didn't say anything as he stretched his back and looked at Naruto. Naruto looked at both of his teammates and an idea popped in his head. He rummaged in his pouch before he took out a set of familiar bells. Bell test? Naruto asked. Bell test, Sasuke and Sakura said in agreement. Naruto each handed his teammate on bell and Naruto looked for one more bell in his pouch and found none. He was about to shrug when he saw something thrown at him. He caught it and looked at his hand to see a bell. Naruto looked up to see Kakashi giving him a thumbs up and an eye smile. Naruto nodded with a smile and tied his bell onto his pants. Naruto, no 6 paths sage mode, Sasuke said. Ah, why not? Naruto whined. Do you really think that is the best idea? I'm not going to use any of Rinnegan abilities, Sasuke said. Can I use Kurama's chakra in sage mode? Naruto asked. Yes, if I am able to use full-powered Sharingan and Susanoo, Sasuke responded. Oh Kami. Sakura said with a sigh. Fine, you two just don't kill me in the process. So who wants to go first? There is only one way to do this, Naruto said as he looked at them. The three of them nodded at each other and they started to do rock paper scissors on who would go first. Tsunade just face-faulted at the sight as Kakashi smiled at them and took out one of his favorite books to read. Athena had finally calmed down both Percy and Aries enough so that they wouldn't fight each other. She saw what Naruto and his group were doing. She had a sweat drop at that. Wouldn't it be easier to just attack with all of you? Athena asked. Shush, owlhead, with 1 against 3 we can't lose this time, Aries said as he elbowed her in the side. Yes, I go first, Sakura said victoriously. Aw man, fine. Sasuke, let's continue to see who goes next, Naruto said, and Sasuke nodded. Sakura smiled as she walked up to the Greeks. Looks like we're in luck. This woman looks completely weak, Aries yelled out. I mean, who in the world would want pink hair? In the back, Sasuke had to resist the urge to both face palm and raise his hand. The comment. Naruto had quickly paled and looked at Sakura, who had a giant tick mark appeared on her head as she was cracking her knuckles. So before I dig the grave of Mr. Loudmouth over there, me and my team are going to do the bell test to your group, Sakura said as he readjusted her gloves. Bell test? Athena asked. Yes, you and your team has to take the bell that is on my hip. Come at us with the intent to kill, or this will be no fun. Me and my teammates will just tag each other out till we feel like to attack you all at once. By then you are probably going to die. Good luck to you though, Sakura said cheekily with a smile. Athena just sweat dropped at that. When Tsunade asked if each group was ready, Sakura nodded and Athena's group got in a ready stance. Sasuke and Naruto were still deciding on who would do first. As soon as Tsunade said fight, Percy and Aries both charged at Sakura with their swords ready. Percy was down low as Aries was still upright while they were running, the both of them thinking that 2 people at once would be too much for her to handle. When the both of them were close, Sakura closed her eyes and raised on hand and started to put chakra into it. When she reopened her eyes, she saw the swords were about to come down on her. She switched with a log at the last minutes, causing both of the swords to get stuck. The next second Sakura reappeared in front of Aries and then fed his forehead. She did the same to Percy and it caused Athena's jaw drop. Both Aries and Percy were sent flying back to the other side of the arena and crashed through the wall. Athena looked back at Sakura as she was dusting off the imaginary dust from her hands as she had a smile on her face. Athena quickly started to summon a sword of her own when Sakura appeared in front of her with her fist back. Athena, acting quickly, used the flat side of her sword to redirect Sakura's fist so it would hit the ground. What Athena didn't know was that Sakura's fist caused the ground to shatter the instant it hit the ground. Athena also saw an indented hand impression on her sword. What the hell? She has the strength of Atlas, Athena thought as she was trying dodging the debris in the air. Sakura quickly started picking up massive chunks out of the ground and started throwing them at Athena. Athena at first was slicing the flying chunks. Soon though, there was too many of them being thrown at her at once and had to change into her owl form to fly out of the way to survive. Aries was getting out of the hole he was in before he was met face first with one of the giant rocks that was thrown at Athena. Athena turned back into her human form as she landed on one of the stands of the arena. Sakura's hands started to glow blue like blades and she disappeared in a burst of speed. Athena did the same before the two reappeared in front of each other in the middle of the arena. Sakura was dodging the strike that Athena was throwing at her, while at the same time Athena was dodging the lethal strikes that were being thrown at her with the flat blade of the sword. While she was doing this, she was kind of wishing that her and Aries should have never sworn to not use no less than a quarter of their powers and not be able to use their true forms. Thinking that it would be too much for this dimension, she was severely handicapped. But not one shying from a challenge like this, she started to deflect the thrusts at her so that every time she did, she was given a tiny opening to strike Sakura at her pressure points. Sakura noticed what Athena was doing as she was feeling her arms to grow heavy with each strike. Not wanting to lose her arms anymore, she stomped her foot to the ground to make a boulder come up from the ground and she kicked it towards Athena, which made her jump to the side and away from Sakura. Sakura looked at Athena, who had a small smile on her face. I see that you noticed that you are losing the feeling in your arms. It was easy, of course, seeing as your style is clearly easy to ready on how you are going to attack, Athena said as she swung her sword to point at Sakura. Care to try again? I can easily do the same to your legs. You do know that your little attacks don't really work on me, right? Sakura stated as she deactivated the flow of chakra to her hands. Oh, and why is that? Athena asked as her sword turned into her spear. Because I can heal the damage you done to me, Sakura said as a green aura started to appear around her arms for a few seconds and then disappeared. Sakura cracked her knuckles again and charged at Athena. Athena got in a ready stance as she waited for her. When Sakura got close, she threw a punch at Athena, who thrusted her spear at Sakura's head. Sakura turned her head quickly to let the spear miss her as her fist was pushed upward from Athena raising her spear up. Sakura used her momentum to swing her body around so Sakura could do a heel drop to Athena's head. Athena quickly raised her spear to block. That proved to be a bad idea as when Sakura's heel touched the spear's pole, it started to bend from the attack, but it did stop Sakura's attack. Athena pushed Sakura off her spear and she noticed how bent it was now. Athena looked at Sakura again as she changed her spear into twin short swords. Sakura got ready when she saw Percy charging at her. To most people Percy looked like as though he was running pretty fast, for a civilian anyway. Sakura saw Percy move as though he was just a civilian running at her. She knew that Athena was moving at about Jonin's speed at least. Sakura just waited for Percy to get close before she caught his blade with her hand and then punched him in the face lightly enough to push him back a couple of feet. Sakura threw Percy's blade at the wall behind her which caused it to embed itself into the wall all the way to its hilt. Percy paled at the sight but he got in a ready stance. Athena gave a glance at Percy before she started to charge at Sakura. Athena then started to throw combination strikes at Sakura who was weaving her body around to dodge for the time being. While that was happening, Percy had his eyes closed and his hands on the ground concentrating. He was searching for something underneath the ground. His eyes snapped open as he felt it and he quickly rose his hands up and a pipe broke through the ground and water started to spew and circle around Percy as he was controlling it. Percy swung both of his hands towards the two fighting in the middle and the water around him started to fly towards them. Athena waited till the very last second before jumping up high into the air to dodge the massive amounts of water flying towards Sakura. Though Sakura wasn't worried when she heard Kaiten Goryuka no Jutsu. A massive fireball shaped as a dragon appeared behind Sakura as she disappeared in a swirl of leaf. The fireball and the giant stream of water collided and caused of steam to appear. Percy was quickly looking around as he put his hand in his pocket again to pull out his golden pen. He uncapped it again to have his sword out at the ready. "Tag Sakura, it's my turn," Sasuke said as he appeared right in front of Athena with his kusanagi already drawn. His kusanagi is a larger than normal chikuto. Athena already prepared to strike before Aries appeared above Sasuke with two swords in his hands. Sasuke didn't even look up as he blocked Aries' attack with his kusanagi. The force of the attack had caused a crater underneath Sasuke and he didn't even flinch. Athena quickly appeared before Sasuke could do anything, appeared in front of Sasuke with her short swords targeting his shoulder and neck. Sasuke quickly pushed Aries off and then used his kusanagi to block the strikes from Athena. Sasuke changed his normal black eye quickly to the normal Sharingan. The world around him slowed to a crawl as he saw the three people in front of him move as though they were moving at all. Sasuke was also seeing on where they were going to strike next. Sasuke then quickly changed his Sharingan to the next level as his changed from the three commas to a pinwheel shape. Athena was spinning around to give herself some momentum for her next strike. Had quickly changed his swords into twin pistols while he was in the air and started raining fire at Sasuke. Sasuke disappeared when Athena's blades were about to reach him. Athena looked around quickly for Sasuke as she had to roll to the side so she wouldn't get hit by Aries' bullets. "You lose," Sasuke said behind her, causing her to turn quickly to defend herself but saw nothing. Athena turned back around to be met with red pinwheel eyes as they started to spin quickly. Tsukuyomi, the next thing she knew was that she was strapped to a cross in an empty area filled with water and a red moon behind her. She tried to break her bindings with her strength but it didn't work. She heard wet footsteps walking towards her. She looked to see Sasuke with his sword drawn. She tried to break her bindings again as Sasuke got back. "It is useless to try and break free. In here you have no control. So for the next 10 days you will be tortured," Sasuke said calmly. "Foolish mortal, you cannot hold me like this, I am a god," Athena yelled. The next thing she felt was something piercing her body. She looked down to see Sasuke's sword piercing her stomach. When the sword came out slowly she saw her golden blood flow. "That the best you can do?" Athena asked arrogantly. Sasuke pointed at her wound again. She looked down and froze in fear as a spider leg started to come out of her wound. She starting to panic as the spider was coming through her wound painfully. After the spider finally came out, it looked at her. Athena recognized that spider anywhere. "Well, how about another weaving match, oh great goddess?" the spider said with venom. She shot some web at Athena's mouth before she could talk. "If I win this time you die from the web and if you win you can kill me again." Athena couldn't even say no as the spider started to weave a beautiful rug out of her webs. Athena saw a copy of herself weaving something, but she knew she would lose. When the spider saw what was woven, the spider laughed and mocked at the goddess's failed attempt. "Looks like you failed, and this time you can't transform me and kill this time, O goddess of weaving," the spider said as it was crawling up Athena's shaking body. The spider with its many eyes saw the fear in Athena's. Athena couldn't do anything as she saw the spider starting to force her mouth open and start shooting web down her throat. Athena screamed at first before it changed to a muffled whimper as her lungs and throat were filled with webbing, slowly suffocating the goddess to death. Athena saw her vision turning black as she heard the spider turn back into a woman with her laughing and mocking her till she died. Everything changed back to where Athena was still alive and she wasn't stabbed. Athena was breathing heavily. She knew she died, she felt it. She looked up to see Sasuke still standing in front of her with a calm expression, his sword at his side at the ready. 9 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes and 59 seconds left to go, Sasuke said as he raised his sword again. Athena's eyes widened in fear as she heard that and saw more copies of Sasuke appearing all around her. Some with spiders in his hand. She started to scream in complete fear as they all started approaching her. Real-world Sasuke had leaned back after a few seconds of staring in Athena's eyes. He closed his eye and took a step back, which made Athena crumple to the ground unconscious and her body twitching every few seconds. "What did you do?" Percy yelled as he ran towards the unconscious body of Athena. Percy was quickly trying to shake the goddess of wisdom awake, but it was not good. Percy glared at Sasuke as he quickly got up and started charging at Sasuke. Sasuke didn't look worried at all as he watched Percy charge at him. He even put his kusanagi back in its scabbard before he was moving his body ever so slightly to dodge the reckless swings thrown at him from Percy. Sasuke even closed his eye as he was dodging Percy's wild swings. "Hold still, you bastard," Percy yelled in frustration as he couldn't even touch Sasuke. "HN," was the only response from the Uchiha. Sasuke continued to dodge everything as Percy continued to swing wildly. While that was happening, Aries was moving Athena away from the battle and somewhere safe. After he did that, Aries started running towards Sasuke while his eyes were glowing red in anger. His pistols changed into a spear and he too was throwing combination attacks as Sasuke. Though Sasuke wasn't looking like he was having trouble at all as his eye was still closed. Aries and Percy continued their assault on the Uchiha, though it did little effect on him as he just casually moved his body and blocked attacks with his hand. "You two bore me," Sasuke said simply as he opened his eye again, staring at the two with a dull eye. "Naruto, you want to tag out? I didn't even need to go full Sharingan or use Susanoo on these weaklings." "I'll show you weaklings," Aries yelled as he tried to spear Sasuke in the head with a powerful thrust. Sasuke just tilted his head to the left so the spear missed him. Aries growled in rage as he started thrusting at Sasuke's head fast enough, making it look like a flurry of spears. Sasuke just continued to move his head side to side to dodge the spear. Percy at the same time was continue swinging his sword madly, though he was becoming tired from the constant swinging. Sasuke was using his hand to push the bronze sword out of its flight path. "Really? Maybe I won't be able to use Kurama's chakra after all. Lame," Naruto said with a frown. "But sure, tag out Sasuke." After hearing that, Sasuke grabbed the spear with his hand and pulled it towards him, causing Aries to stumble forward and getting kicked in the face. He then used the spear to block Percy's next swing and then spun his body and used the spear to attack Percy into his side. Percy locked his jaw to not let the scream of pain leave his mouth as he used his arm to lock the pear in his side so it would go anywhere. Sasuke let go of the pear quickly and stomped the spear into the ground, Percy to whelp in surprise as he was lifted up off the ground while he was holding the spear and then felt a powerful force hit him in the head, causing him to crash into the ground hard and embed himself into the ground. Percy groaned in pain while Sasuke was walking away. "Dope. Don't hurt them too bad. I still want you and me combining my Susanoo and your Kyuubi Fox mode," Sasuke said as he was walking back to his team. "Sure Teme, though isn't that overkill?" Naruto asked as he was walking towards the two people left. "What's overkill?" Sasuke responded as he stood next to Sakura. Naruto didn't say anything as he just walked towards the two guys that were slowly getting themselves ready to fight again. "So Sasuke-kun, want to get something to eat after this stupid fight is over?" Sakura asked. "Sure," Sasuke said quietly. Sakura smiled before going back to watching the fight. "Sue, how are you guys doing?" Naruto asked while scratching his head. Percy didn't say anything as he was regaining his bearings from the last attack. Aries was summoning his spear back to his hands. Aries and Percy looked at each other for a second before they nodded to each other. Naruto just watched as he saw Aries disappear in a burst of speed. The ground underneath of Aries left feet impressions on where he stepped. Naruto was easily tracking where Aries was running with his eyes. Percy for his part was trying to summon more water to him to use. "So Ramen hater, what are you doing?" Naruto asked. "Why don't you wait and find out? Unless you can produce water out of nothing," Percy said to him sarcastically. "Oh, you need water? I can make you some," Naruto said as he went through some hand seals. "Wait, what did you say?" Percy asked. He really couldn't make water out of thin air, can he? "Sweden. Daibakufu no jutsu," was what Percy heard as he watched Naruto take a deep breath. Percy's jaw dropped as he saw Naruto spew out a giant vortex of water out of his mouth. Aries stopped running as he braced himself for the incoming vortex. He stabbed his sword into the ground and held on tight. Percy shook the shock off his face as he slammed his fists together as he with a serious look on his face. The vortex grew in size before it slammed against Percy and Aries. Aries' grip held strong as the force of the vortex tried move him. Percy had let the vortex take him. Naruto continued to make the vortex as he added more chakra into the attack, making it bigger and stronger. Percy had his eyes closed as he concentrating on the water around him. Percy put his hands behind him as the water behind him started to go against the current and slowing Percy down so he doesn't crash into the wall he was approaching. Percy looked around in the water to see Aries there losing his grip slightly. Feeling his strength returning to him, Percy started to swim towards Aries quickly. Aries just lost his grip on his sword when Percy caught his armor and was holding onto Aries' sword now. A few seconds later the force of the vortex started to lessen before it stopped and the water just stopped. Percy and Aries hit the wet ground. Aries was coughing up water as Percy was standing up and looking right at Naruto. "Are you a son of Poseidon as well? There is no possible way that a normal person can make water appear out of nowhere," Percy asked. "Normal is overrated," Naruto said casually. Percy just had a twitching eyebrow as he started to draw water to his hand to make a trident in his left hand as he had his sword in his right hand. Percy was confident that with the water around him he would win now. Aries was drying himself off as he was summoning his sword. You guys want a free shot?" Naruto asked as he was running his chin. "What?" Aries asked with a raised eyebrow. "A free shot right here to the heart," Naruto said as he pointed at the heart. "Won't that kill you?" Percy asked in confusion. "Come on, free shot right here, Ramen hater. Hell, big guy over there can stab me right here in the stomach," Naruto said as he raised his arms out. "Come on, unless you guys are chicken." Percy narrowed his eyes at that. His anger was rising at the taunt. Nobody calls Percy Jackson a chicken and lives to tell the tale. Aries was really tempted to just throw a spear at Naruto's head to be done with it. But that would be too simple, too easy. No, he wanted to make this slow and painful. To prove that he was the prince and not this punk. "Percy, go for his here, I'll throw the spear to his stomach. Let us show him that we're not to be messed with," Aries said with authority. Percy didn't argue there as he started running towards Percy as fast as he could. Aries' sword transformed into his spear and he threw it with enough power that it should spear right through Naruto. Naruto just watched them with a smile. When Percy got close, he thrusted both his spear and sword at Naruto's heart. Percy saw both his weapons hit home as they pierced Naruto's body. Aries' spear also hit its mark as it pierced Naruto's stomach. Naruto stood there with his arms still out and he looked at Percy with a smile. Aries was looking a slack jaw. There was no way Naruto should be standing, he was both stabbed in the heart and pierced in the stomach. The stomach acid alone should be eating away at him right now. "Oh look, I got stabbed," Naruto said very calmly. Naruto smiled at Percy as Naruto grabbed Percy's weapons tightly. Naruto slowly pulled the weapons out of his chest without even showing any discomfort on his face. Percy was trying his best to keep his weapons lodged in, but it was a futile attempt. Naruto finished pulling out Percy's weapons and looked down to see steam coming off his wounds as they healed themselves. Naruto looked at Percy with a smirk as Percy had a dumbfounded look on his face. "That is so cheap," Percy said. "Yup. was all Naruto said before he threw a punch right at Percy's face. Percy didn't even see it coming as Naruto's fist connected and Percy blacked out. Naruto watched Percy's body fly back as the shockwave from the punch broke the ground beneath them from the force. Aries just watched as Percy crashed into the wall behind him. Naruto was casually walking towards Aries as he was slowly pulling out the spear out of his stomach. Naruto held the spear in his hand and looked at Aries. "Here, you dropped this," Naruto said. Naruto tossed the spear at Aries at high speed. Aries thanked his father for his reaction time, as he almost missed seeing the spear coming. Aries twisted his body quickly to just barely dodge the spear. He saw that it embeds itself into the wall. Aries was about to summon his spear when Naruto appeared in front of him. "Hi," Naruto said brightly. "Die," Aries said back as he tried to throw a punch. Naruto caught the punch easily. Aries growled as he tried to pull his hand back from Naruto's iron-like grip. When that failed, Aries tried to punch him with his free hand. Naruto just dodged the strike. Naruto saw a kick about to be thrown at him, so he was at the ready. Naruto moved his head slightly to dodge the punch thrown again and he raised his left leg to dodge the kick. This went on for a bit. Aries tried to use his martial arts experience to overpower Naruto, yet everything that he tried to do Naruto just dodged it. Naruto at the same time was thinking about what he was going to do after this. Naruto was thinking of visiting Iruka at the academy and talking with him for a bit. Naruto was pushed out of his thoughts as Aries had quickly had a gun in his hand and had it at Naruto's temple. "Die, mortal," Aries yelled as he pulled the trigger. Naruto raised an eyebrow as heard a loud bang erupt from the gun. Naruto leaned his head back to watch as the bullet sail past in front of his face. Aries yelled in anger as he pointed the barrel of the gun at Naruto's face. Naruto chuckled as he just watched the bullets fly towards him and he just moved his head side to dodge them. "Gah! Why won't you just die, you mortal?" Aries yelled in anger as his gun was empty. He threw the gun at Naruto in rage. "Don't you know?" Naruto said casually before a gleam appeared in his eyes. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto then head-butted Aries hard enough to crack his helmet that he was wearing. Naruto punched Aries in the stomach to make him cough up blood. Then Naruto grabbed Aries' armor and lifted him above his head. Aries tried to struggle before he was slammed into Naruto's knee and a sickening crack was heard from that. Aries had silent screams as he was struck. Naruto casually tossed him to the side as he dusted off his hand on his shirt. Naruto started heading back towards his team thinking that it was over. "It's no, over yet," Aries said painfully. Aries pulled out a square-looking piece of food from a pouch he had. He started to eat it and he yelled out in pain when a snapping sound was heard. Aries continued to eat the square till he was standing again, though just barely. Naruto looked at him with a raised eyebrow. So he wanted to continue fighting despite how bad he is injured. He had to admit, it did remind him of himself. Naruto turned back around and gathered nature chakra around him. Naruto entered sage mode a second later as he watched Aries slowly walking towards him with a limp. Naruto just stood there as Aries was slowly heading towards him with a limp, then a light jog, to a full-out sprint. Naruto put his hand in his pocket as he saw Aries closing in on him. Naruto waited till he was a few feet from him before stopping his foot on the ground to make a boulder come up from the ground to block the punch from Aries. Aries threw his punch with all the strength he had left. Aries' fist shattered the boulder and it struck Naruto's face. Naruto didn't even move his head from the attack. Aries' fist fell to his side as Naruto threw his own punch, which made Aries feel like as though he was getting hit by Gia herself. Each punch that Naruto landed made a loud thunderous sound from the punches. "Looks like you can't fight anymore," Naruto said as he watched Aries fall to his knees. "I will not give up," Aries said as he looked up at Naruto. "If you say so," Naruto said as he raised his hand as a golden Rasengan formed in his hand. "Last chance, give up now." "Never," Aries said with a glare. Naruto just closed his eyes as the kicked Aries in the chin up into the air. Naruto disappeared as Aries flew up into the air. Naruto reappeared above Aries' body and he thrusted the Rasengan into Aries' stomach. The Rasengan broke right through Aries' armor and it started grinding right into his stomach. Aries had a silent scream as the jutsu was hitting him till it Naruto just kicked him straight into the ground and a few feet below it. Naruto landed gracefully and looked into the body shape hole in the ground and saw that Aries was knocked out. Well, that's that. Naruto said as he headed towards his teammate. Hey guys, want to get something to eat? Because I'm hungry right now. Oh, you guys also want to join me on visiting Iruka? Sasuke didn't say anything and he looked at Sakura. Sakura looked at Sasuke before she nodded her head. Naruto smiled and the three of them left to go do whatever they want to do. Tsunade didn't even say anything as she signaled for Anbu to get the 3 down people in the arena and take them to the hospital. Kakashi looked around as Tsunade already left. Ah, it's over. Kakashi said. Yes, it is my eternal rival. Let us go join our students and see what they are up to. Guy said loudly. Sure, why not? Want me to roll you there? Kakashi asked as he put his book away. No. Instead we will race to where our students are. If I lose I will crawl to Suna and back on my hands 100 times. Guy said as his eyes were on fire. Kakashi's sweat dropped and just disappeared and Guy started to speed roll himself out of the arena. Tsunade just disappeared in a puff of smoke. She just decided she needed a sake. A lot of sake at what this day has been. Maybe if she drank enough she will forget about this did. She looked at the sky and then just snorted. Yeah, she can feel the headache coming tomorrow. It has been a few days since the battle against the Greeks. Most of the foreign ninja have already left and have head back to their respected villages. The civilians were still talking about the fights they saw. Though they didn't really have anything impressive to say about them. From what they saw, the Greeks didn't do anything special. Why'd I have to be there as well? Someone yelled. Everyone in the area turned to the source of the yell. They saw Naruto looking pale as he was hiding behind a tree from an Anbu shinobi with a tiger mask. Come on Uzumaki-san, you have to go to the hospital to talk with the 3 people that your team and Team Asuma's fought. Also, didn't you have an appointment with Hokage-sama today as well? The Anbu asked. Ba-chan can just give me a recap. I have a bet at Ichiraku's with these total noobs. I can't miss that. Naruto said as he was still hiding behind the tree. Also, I can just reschedule the appointment for next time. It's not that very important anyways. Uzumaki-san, please don't make this harder than this had to be. The Anbu said with a sigh. Honestly though, what could he do? It's not like he could force one of the most powerful people in the world to do what he wants. How about this, if you will come with me to the hospital I will pay for your next 3 trips to that ramen stand you like to go to. Make it 4 then it is a deal. Naruto said as he peeked out from behind the tree. Hey, he may be a badass ninja, but hospitals and him do not mix well at all. Fine. Now let us go Uzumaki-san. The Hokage doesn't want to be kept waiting long. The Anbu said with an exasperated sigh. He felt his wallet whimper at how much ramen he was going to be buying for Naruto. Naruto nodded and got out of hiding from behind the tree and him and the Anbu shushined to the hospital. Though Naruto left a clone and ordered it to head to the ramen stand to tell Tucci that he was going to pass by later to tackle the challenge later on in the day. Konoha Hospital. Naruto appeared in front of the hospital with the Anbu. Naruto looked around to see Tsunade, Kakashi and Shikamaru were standing in front of the doors talking to each other. Naruto started walking towards them as he waved the Anbu to come on. The Anbu though just stood there as he waited for his next orders. Tsunade noticed Naruto coming over and she looked past him and to see the Anbu still there. She gave a nod to the Anbu and waved Naruto over. The Anbu quickly disappeared to his designated hiding place. Nice of you to finally join us Naruto, Tsunade said. You know me and hospitals never mixed well. Naruto said as he waved at Kakashi and Shikamaru. Yeah, but it is a great place to get back at you for always calling me old. Tsunade said with a sickly sweet smile and held up a needle in front of Naruto. Naruto screamed and jumped behind Shikamaru to hide from the needle. Shikamaru sighed in boredom and moved to the side so that Naruto wasn't hiding anymore. Now Naruto, make this easier on yourself and let me just get some blood from you. Tsunade said as she was walking towards him. Oh, look at the time. I have to be at a place so bye. Naruto said quickly as he jumped up and started to run only to be stopped by Kakashi grabbing him by the collar. Naruto tried to struggle to get free, but then he felt his body freeze up. Shikamaru, Kakashi-sensei, why would you do this to me? Naruto said frantically as she saw Tsunade closing in on him with a creepy smile on her face. No. Don't let her near me with that vile weapon of hers. Kakashi and Shikamaru both sweat drop at that statement, though they didn't do anything to stop it. Naruto continued to try and break free from Shikamaru's shadow but it proved futile. Tsunade started to laugh like a crazy woman as she stuck the needle in Naruto's arm and drew his blood. Naruto was about to scream but Kakashi put a hand on Naruto's mouth to muffle it. Tsunade had a satisfied look on her face as she finished drawing Naruto's blood. She pulled the needle out and looked at the blood-filled syringe. Okay. Now that the hard part is over, I'm going to analyze your blood and see if it is compatible with the Hashirama cells we have. While I am doing that, you, Kakashi and Shikamaru are going to talk with those Greeks and find out why they are here to take you Naruto. Tsunade said. Can't they just go themselves? I don't really need to be there, do I? Naruto complained as he was released by his friends. You will be there, Naruto, and that's final, Tsunade said sternly. Is that an order? Naruto said with narrow eyes. Yes, it is genin. Tsunade responded while making sure she emphasized the word genin. Naruto twitched at the mention of genin and he had a storm cloud form above his head. Kakashi sighed and he grabbed Naruto by the collar again and started dragging him along as he and Shikamaru were heading into the hospital. Tsunade just rolled her eyes as he headed towards the lab to start working on Naruto's blood. Inside the hospital as Kakashi was dragging Naruto in the hospital, Shikamaru was talking to the receptionist at the front desk on where the Greeks were roomed at. Shikamaru noticed that some of the passing nurses were talking quietly to one another as they were pointing at the moping Naruto. Shikamaru mumbled, troublesome, under his breath as he waved Kakashi in the direction the room was located. Kakashi nodded and started heading towards the room with Naruto in tow. When they got to there, Kakashi had got Naruto out of his funk with the bribery of Ramen. Shikamaru shook his head as he entered the room. He saw that the boy Percy was awake and was sitting in one of the chairs with a cast on his arms. He also saw Athena and Aries in their own hospital beds. Aries was wrapped up in bandages around his chest. He was sitting up and was eating a square block that looked like it was helping him heal. Athena though was still unconscious as her left arm was in a sling and her right leg was elevated and in a cast. Oh joy, it's you three. Aries said as he was eating his square food. You guys here to rub it in? As much as that would be fun, but no we're not. Shikamaru said as he pulled up a seat to sit next to Aries. We are here to ask why you want Naruto and who you all really are. Well, I'm not talking to any of you till I am fully healed and I get a rematch with blonde boy over there and that freak in green. Aries responded as he finished eating his square. What are you eating anyways? Kakashi asked as he was digging around for his book. Aries just looked away and refused to answer. Shikamaru wasn't really surprised that Aries was like this. He would be stubborn too if he got his ass kicked that badly. Shikamaru then looked at Percy, maybe getting some information from him. Percy, right? Shikamaru asked, getting Percy's attention. Yes. Percy said. You mind asking me a few questions since you're fiend here? He's not my friend. Percy and Aries said quickly. Right, your acquaintance. Do you mind? Shikamaru asked him calmly. Will the Naruto over there try killing me for not liking ramen? Percy asked as he stared at Naruto nervously. Yosh. The ramen hater has spoken his last insult to the holy ramen. Naruto yelled with a Rasengan in his hand. Naruto. Kakashi yelled. No killing, the only source of information we have, well yet anyways. Naruto huffed and depowered the Rasengan and he left the room before he would attack the ramen hater again. Shikamaru sighed in frustration and Kakashi got his favorite orange book out of his pouch and started reading it. Perverted giggles could be heard from him. Percy looked at him confused. Ignore pervert with the book. Now let's start with some simple questions. Mount Olympus, back in the other dimension. Zeus had a hand covering his face as some of the other gods were talking among themselves at what they saw. All of the gods had just witnessed the Aries and Athena lose to the shinobi. I have to say, that boy is very powerful and will be a threat if he does come home to us, Hades said. For once I agree with you, brother. I don't think it would be a good idea for him to come here, Poseidon said. But he belongs here. He is our son, Hera said with some steel in her voice. He is going home to his family. Besides you wanting your son back, but the fact remains that he is a powerful mortal that has enough power to oppose us if he so wishes. Hades said. What is to say when he comes to our home he would just wipe us out and rule this world? My son would never do that. You have seen how good-hearted he is, Hera said. Hades and Hera continued to argue as Poseidon got off throne and went to Apollo, and Hermes were talking to one another. Apollo, Hermes, what are your opinions on this? Poseidon asked them. He seems okay to me, though I do have to wonder what kind of effect he would have on the world if he does come over here. Apollo, your thoughts? Hermes said as he got the attention of the distracted sun god. Oh hey Poseidon. Apollo greeted. Well, in all honesty, I would like to meet him. If he can beat the crap out of Aries, he is okay in my book. Also, he looks like a prankster to me and I love to do a good prank. Konoha Naruto froze mid-step and looked around oddly as he had to stop the urge to fist pump into the air. He didn't know why though. He shrugged and started walking again to who knows where. Mount Olympus, you know, if he does get over here, we should have a prank war, Apollo said. You know what, we should. We haven't had one in about 400 years now, I think, Hermes said with a glint in his eyes. Poseidon glared at both of them. He remembered the last time they had a prank war. He couldn't get the giant picture of him asleep in a pink dress out of his throne room for 30 years. Poseidon left them as they started talking about their plans for the prank war they want to do. Poseidon walked up to his brother to see how he is feeling about all this. Brother, he said to Zeus. Yes Poseidon, can't you see I'm busy? Zeus said as he was watching the Iris message. You're just sitting there, Poseidon said with a raised eyebrow.
Yes, and I'm also watching to see what my son is up to, Zeus said to him, not looking away.
You know that sounds like you're stalking him, right? Poseidon asked with a raised eyebrow. I'm not stalking him. I'm making sure that my son is not doing anything to make him not want to come to us by watching his every move and decision closely, Zeus explained. So stalking? I'm not stalking. Now what do you want before I strike you with my lighting? I was going to ask you on your stand on having Naruto coming to our dimension, but from the way you answered my question it is pretty clear on what you want. So my next question is, how are you going to convince him that what Athena and Ares are saying are true and convince him that you are his parents? Poseidon asked as he crossed his arms. Well, if Ares and Athena can't convince him, then maybe we could send another god with a letter from me and Hera explaining everything in their language. As for the second question, I have no idea, Zeus said. Do you really think would actually work? Poseidon asked. No, not really. But leave me, I must watch my son to see if he will join us, Zeus said with a commanding tone as he watched Naruto closely on the Iris message. Poseidon had his eyebrow twitching as he saw the weird look Zeus had while watching the Iris message. He kind of wished that he wasn't related to Zeus at this very moment. He saw that Hades just left the room and Hera looked like she was about to smite someone. Poseidon just turned around and started heading back to his home in the ocean. He just didn't want to deal with them anymore. Konoha, we now find Naruto having a casual eating contest at his favorite ramen stand against a couple of no-name civilians, thinking that they could out-eat Naruto. Oh, how wrong they were. The civilians looked in shock as Naruto was just casually eating his 20th bowl of ramen. Tucci was watching all this with an amused expression on his face and his daughter was giggling at the face of the civilians. So you two boys want to just give up already, seeing as my favorite customer just doubled what you two ate combined? Tucci asked them. Ayame, how much do they owe since Naruto here already has basically free ramen forever from us? Hi Otto-san, they owe us about 2,000 ryo each, Ayame said as she looked over their order. Tucci nodded as he went back into making the orders for his other customers. The two civilians just sighed and paid for their food. They thanked the ramen chef and waved at Naruto goodbye as he was finishing his 24th bowl, and he waved goodbye as well. Best ramen as always, Oji-san, Naruto said with a happy sigh. You always say that, Naruto. You do know there is another ramen stand just a few stores down that I hear that is getting popular, Tucci said as he while chopping some vegetables. Now why would I do that? Food made by family is so much better than some crappy restaurant place, Naruto said with a smile as he was getting some money out. That is, Naruto. That it is, Tucci said with a smile as well. Ayame had a smile as well. Wait, Naruto. You know you don't have to pay for the ramen, Ayame said quickly as she was trying to hand Naruto his money back. Naruto didn't listen to her as he just stood up and stretched and gave a wave goodbye to them. Tucci just shook his head amused as he went back to cooking. Ayame just sighed and headed back into the restaurant to get back to work. Naruto was casually walking back to his place. While he was walking, he sensed a familiar chakra signature coming up behind him. He turned around to see his friend Lee running up to him with his sensei keeping up with Lee in his wheelchair. The two of them skidded to a halt in front of Naruto and caused a lot of dust to come up into the air. Everyone in the area was coughing till Naruto used a quick burst of wind chakra to blow the dust away. Yash. Naruto, my eternal rival, how are you? Lee asked him. I'm good, Lee. You? Naruto said as he dusted off his shirt. I'm great. The power of youth is burning strongly today after fighting that weird speaking guy. Lee said as he first pumped. Oh, also, Tsunade-sama is looking for you. Said something about your arm replacement and a bunch of other medical terms that I don't understand. Naruto nodded and told them he will head over there. Lee gave a nice guy pose before him and guy headed off in high speeds to no knows where. Naruto then started his track back to his house to change his shirt. Or he wanted to before two Anbu captains appeared in front of him with their arms crossed. Naruto just sighed and turned around and went to the hospital. The Anbu captains shook their heads and started walking with Naruto and had a small conversation with the other Anbu captain about Naruto. Konoha Hospital. And that is everything I know on why we are here and what we are tasked to do. Percy said as he finished explaining everything to them. So you were saying that the three of you are from another dimension as are Naruto's parents and they wanted you three to come back with him so that they can be a family. With also the fact that Greek gods do exists and make sure the world is balanced in the world. Shikamaru summarized everything. Now I know that sound ridiculous, Percy started to say. Actually not really. Shikamaru replied. I'm telling you wait what? Percy said in confusion. I said I believe you. Now we just need Naruto to fist bump you to confirm it. Shikamaru responded as he got up and looked at Kakashi. How does a fist bump confirm on what I said? Percy asked. Kakashi, you mind watching them while I go get Naruto? Shikamaru asked ignoring Percy's question. Kakashi just waved as he turned a page in his book and a perverted giggle escaped his. Shikamaru was about to head out, when the door opened and Tsunade was walking in with Naruto behind her. Oh, that saves me the trouble. Naruto, do you mind fist bumping Percy here? Shikamaru asked him. Why? Naruto asked. Just do it you idiot. Tsunade said with a tick mark on her head and bonked Naruto's head. Itai. That hurt you damn granny. Naruto said as he was rubbing his head. Do it now or so help me I'll ban you from ICHIKRAKUS for 20 years. Tsunade yelled at him as her patience was wearing thin. Naruto grumbled as he went over to Percy as he stuck his fist out in front of him. Percy was looking very confused as to why he had to fist bump. He looked at Naruto who was motioning him to do it with a nod of his head. With a small sigh, Percy raised his fist and bumped it with Naruto's. As soon as that happened, Naruto had a rush of information of Greeks, the language and other stuff flow into his head. Naruto blinked after a second as he lowered his fist. He looked at Shikamaru with a raised eyebrow. Shikamaru took that as the signal to explain. So for the next hour or so Shikamaru was explaining what he had learned to Naruto and while that was happening Tsunade was taking notes and examining Naruto's stump to see how she was going to attach his new arm. So that's the gist of it. Shikamaru said as he finished retelling what he was told earlier. Sounds interesting to travel that dimension. Besides I can always come back with the help of Sasuke till I can make a seal to so I can go to end from there. Naruto said. You guys mind if I just pop in there for a second to check out the place before coming back? Are you going to start fighting them when you get there or are you actually just going to sneak around and see the sights? Shikamaru asked with a deadpan face etched on his face. Do I look like someone that goes looking for a fight? Naruto asked with an innocent face. Yes you are. But it's not up to me that's up to the almost retired Hokage and the newly appointed Hokage's decision. Shikamaru said. Oh wait, who is the new appointed Hokage? Naruto asked knowing he wasn't the next Hokage. That would be me. Kakashi said as he closed his book and stood up to stretch. Ah, Kakashi-sensei is the next Hokage. So what do you think, should I go over there to scout out the place? Naruto asked him. Absolutely not. Kakashi said with an eye smile. He watched Naruto's shoulders droop. But, knowing you are going to do it anyways. So go ahead. I don't approve of this at all. Tsunade said firmly. Troublesome. Don't get yourself killed over there. I don't think people will take too kindly that their hero died. Shikamaru said. Can you at least wait and let me give you your new arm? Tsunade asked. Nah. I'll be back in a bit. Naruto said before he disappeared in a flash of yellow. Kami have mercy on you people's world. Tsunade said to Aries and Percy. Aries and Percy felt a shiver go up their spines when she said that. Tsunade shook her head as she went to Athena's bed and picked up the clipboard that was next to her bed and read the medic report that the nurses took. Tsunade nodded as she finished reading the report and put the clipboard back down. Tsunade then stood next to the unconscious Athena and started pumping healing chakra into her hands and placed them over Athena's head. Aries watched this as Tsunade was healing Athena. After a few minutes, Tsunade nodded and removed her hands and called for a nurse to get her in a few minutes. Shikamaru nodded to her as she left. With Naruto was quickly flashing around the village looking for his friend Sasuke. Civilians around him had to cover their eyes from the bright flashes. Lee saw this and fire had replaced his eyes as he yelled out youth and started following Naruto at high speeds as well, creating a mixture of green and yellow blurs and flashes. Guy saw this and was crying tears of joy and was yelling out how their youths burned brightly today. Naruto just glanced at while he was looking for Sasuke and he chuckled quietly as his friend's action. Naruto stopped as he saw Sasuke walking by himself towards his clan home. Naruto stopped right in front of Sasuke as continued to run around as a green blur around the village. "Oi, Sasuke. I need a favor," Naruto said. Sasuke just stared at Naruto with dull eyes. "Okay. I need you to open a dimension portal to those Greek peoples so I can explore." "No," was Sasuke's response before he started walking again. "Wait, Sasuke," Naruto said as he stood in front of Sasuke again with his arm out. "Just hear me out, okay?" Sasuke just stood there as Naruto started explaining on what he wanted to do and what Shikamaru told him earlier. When Naruto finished his explanation, Sasuke just continued to look at him before just shook his head and started walking again. "If you don't help me, I will tell everyone about your secret liking to do," Naruto said before his mouth was covered quickly by an angry-looking Sasuke. "You say one more word and I will kill you slowly and then burn your body to ashes and feed them to my snakes, you blonde asshole," Sasuke said with gritted teeth and his eye changed to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Naruto gave him a knowing glare saying, "Try me, you bastard, tch." Naruto gave a peace sign as Sasuke was still glaring at him. Naruto took out a piece of paper and his brush and started to create a seal. Though he didn't go far till Sasuke took the paper and started to rip it apart. "Oi teme," Naruto said in anger. "That seal's to let you know to get me." "Why would I need it when I'm going with you?" Sasuke asked as he started walking to his clan home again, and this time Naruto followed him. The two of them fell into a tense silence, though it was mostly Naruto giving irritated glances at Sasuke. When the both of them got there, Sasuke told Naruto to wait outside for a sec as he was getting some supplies before they head out. Naruto stood there tapping his foot as he was waiting impatiently. A few minutes has passed as he was waiting and he started grinding his teeth. A few more minutes passed as Naruto started to rub his head in irritation from all the waiting. "Gah. That's it. I'm getting the teme so we could leave already," Naruto said in irritation. Naruto stomped into Sasuke's house rather loudly as he went on the search for his friend. He heard some scuffle in a room near him and he headed towards the sound. As he got close to the door, he started to hear some strange noises. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he heard some more weird sounds from the room and he nodded to himself. He took a deep breath before he kicked the door down. "Oi Sasuke. What the hell are you? You are my eyes." Naruto started before he started screaming and he ran out the room quickly. Sasuke just shook his head as he to put back on his boxers and pants with the help of a blushing Sakura. "Anyo Sasuke-kun, you don't think," Sakura started as Sasuke finished fixing his pants. Let the dope think what he wants," Sasuke said as he took a copy of his long-sleeve shirt. "I'll see you later, Sakura. Maybe we can have that coffee when I get back." "I would like that," Sakura said softly as she handed him his kunai pouch and his kasugai. Sasuke nodded as he put his kasugai on his back and headed out the clan house. He had the pleasure of seeing Naruto with a kunai in hand as he was about to stab his eyes. "I have seen thing I wasn't supposed to see. I must remove my eyes for they have been contaminated by the sight of the Uchiha full moon." Naruto yelled loud as he was about to plunge the kunai in his left eye dramatically. "If you're going to do that, make sure you clean off the blood off my grass." Sasuke just walked past him. "Meet me at the old training ground after you're done being such an idiot." "Oi!" Naruto yelled out at him as Naruto watched Sasuke disappear towards the training ground. Naruto growled out "Add the kunai." His hand snapped from his grip and his eyes turned red with red slits. Era. The Uchiha is up to his prick-like self. Tell me again why you haven't killed him again. The Kyuubi asked while he was yawing in Naruto's mindscape. Because is my friend, Naruto said with an irritation in his voice. Naruto took some calming breaths before he disappeared in a flash of yellow. Sakura just started to lock up Sasuke's clan home before she headed back to the hospital. Maybe she could catch up with Ino after she finished her rounds. At the training ground 7, Sasuke had his eye closed as he waited for Naruto. A gentle breeze blew through the area as a wave of nostalgia befell on Sasuke. He opened his eye as he looked towards 3 logs that were there. He had a small smile as he saw the ghostly image of him and his teammates as kids, with the kid Naruto tied to the middle log and his teammates trying to feed him food. Sasuke saw the ghostly forms slowly disappear as Naruto was walking up to him. Sasuke turned to look at Naruto again with a look of indifference. "Ah, this place sure brings back memories, huh, Sasuke?" Naruto said. He looked around the area with a warm smile as Sasuke didn't respond. "Yeah, I agree, time sure does fly." Sasuke closed his eye and nodded in silent agreement. Naruto closed his eyes as a gentle breeze passed through the area again. When it ended, both Sasuke and Naruto let out a relaxing breath. Naruto opened his eyes as he looked up into the sky. "Okay. Now that we are relaxed, ready to start opening that dimension and see how it is over there?" Naruto asked. Sasuke didn't respond as he used his hand to move the hair out of his face and opened both of his eyes as to reveal both eyes had the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke started to channel some chakra into his eyes. Naruto felt the chakra in the area started to gather into a single point in front of them. Soon a tear started to appear in front of them. As more chakra continued to gather, the tear continued to grow until it was just taller than Naruto. Then it started to spread apart, and inside the hole it was only a black void as far the eyes can see. Naruto raised his hand to signal Sasuke to stop as the gap from the tear was wide enough for the both of them can easily walk through it. "So do you think this is the right way to their dimension?" Naruto asked as he stuck his head through the rift. "Only one way to find out," Sasuke said as he raised his foot. "And how are we going to do that?" Naruto asked as he pulled his head back to look at Sasuke. That was when he saw that Sasuke was ready to kick him. "Oi! What do you think you were doing?" Sasuke didn't respond as he gave a mighty kick to Naruto's ass. Naruto yelled out, "Teme," as he was punted through the rift. Sasuke casually walked through the rift as it was starting to close on itself. He didn't notice a green blur following them through the rift before it closed completely. Naruto's voice was echoing in the void as he was still soaring through the void, and Sasuke was just following the sound of his teammate. When Naruto finally crashed into the ground, he skidded to a halt with his face. As he finally stopped, Sasuke stopped behind him to see the steam coming off Naruto's head. "OW, that and hurt. That the hell is your problem, you Teme?" Naruto asked in anger. "We had to see if this was the right dimension, and using your think skull to check was the only solution," Sasuke said calmly as Naruto stood right in front of his face with his eyes red. "Why didn't you just use your summons to scout ahead?" Naruto asked in anger. "This was for trying to blackmailing me and coming and seeing me changing," Sasuke said as he walked right past Naruto and started heading to a light that was illuminating in the distance. Naruto just growled out as he followed his soon-to-be dead teammate. Naruto took a few calming breaths as his eyes turned back to their normal sky blue color. The both of them continued to walk till the bright light was in front of them in the shape of a doorway. "Want to flip a Ryo to see who goes first?" Naruto said as took out a Ryo. Sasuke just did his signature, HN, as an answer, and Naruto just took that as a yes and he flipped the Ryo in the air. The both of them watched to see where it was going to land before a green blur passed right between them and catching the Ryo in the process. The both of them quickly turned to the blur in a battle-ready stance before they saw that it was just Lee. "Lee, what the hell are you doing here?" Naruto asked in confusion. "Yosh. I was following you too so I could challenge both of you in a fight to see who was number 1 in the world," Lee said energetically. "So I just happened to follow you into that black hole-looking thing. By the way, where are we?" Sasuke's sweat dropped at the answer, as did Naruto. The both of them then nodded as the both of them raised on foot and the both of them kicked Lee into the light doorway. Lee's body was sent flying through it as Sasuke and Naruto followed suit. Mount Olympus. The gods themselves were just doing their normal thing on Mount Olympus, checking up on the world below and checking their domains weren't in danger of anything. The minor gods themselves were minding their own business as they didn't really mingle with the major gods. The big three were in the throne room talking to each other and Artemis was coming in with one of her hunters before the whole room started to shake violently. By chaos, what is happening? Hades asked quickly. Look. Artemis cried out as she pointed. Everyone in the room looked towards where she was pointing to see something was trying to break through an imaginary wall as it looked like as though something was trying to force their way in.
Zeus, Hades and Poseidon summoned their respected weapons to their hands. Zeus with his master bolt, Hades and his two-pronged battle fork with the tips engulfed in blue flames and Poseidon and his trident. Artemis just watched in curiosity. Soon Hera and Hestia also come into the throne room quickly.
What is happening? Hera asked. We are about to have company, Zeus said as he started channeling his power into his lightning bolt. All of the gods watched with bated breaths as a tear formed in the middle of the room. They all watched as the tear grew to the size of an adult mortal. They all tensed as they saw a pair of hands grab the edges of the tear and started to push them apart. As the hole grew, Hades and Poseidon had their weapons at the ready before everyone in the room froze at the voice that spoke. Oiteme, help me out here, Naruto said from the tear. Just use boil release to raise your strength, for Kami's sake you can just pump some chakra into your limbs to open that easily. Why are you being such a moron right now? Sasuke asked in irritation. Yosh. Let me do it, Naruto-san. Lee said. Naruto groaned in annoyance as he just gave up asking them and just started channeling one of his Kekkei Genkai, the boil release. He felt his chakra started to heat up and some steam was starting to come out of his pores. He also felt his strength increase as he was pushing the tear more easily now. Naruto to continue to do this till the tear was wide enough for them to pass through easily. He stopped channeling the boil release as the steam started to disappear. He was the first to walk through, then it was Sasuke and then Lee. The three of them looked around to see giant people before them with weapons trained at them and three women who were all looking at them in shock and surprise. The three of them felt the rift close behind them. Ahai! Was the first thing that Naruto said to the huge people in the room. Sasuke just faced palm as Lee looked like as though Christmas came early. What is the meaning of this? How did you three get in here? Hades said as he was the first to snap out of their shock.
What did they say, Naruto? Lee asked him. Naruto just shrugged. Beats me, Lee. Why don't you have some fun as I make some seals so that they can understand us? Naruto said as he was searching through his pouch for some paper and ink. Yosh, I will show them the power of youth. Lee yelled excitedly. I have no idea what he said, but get them before they can do anything dangerous. Poseidon said as he threw his trident at Naruto's group. Sasuke didn't move as he just stood there. Naruto just sat down as he found his paper and brush as she started to make some seals. Lee though started jumping on one foot before he disappeared from their sight and was in front of Naruto a second later. Lee watched the trident fly towards him before catching it. The gods looked with wide eyes at that. Lee casually spun the trident before throwing it back at Poseidon with twice the speed from before. Poseidon had to dodge quickly as he barely saw it coming. Lee then started walking towards the big three while cracking his knuckles. Yosh, hello, my name is Lee and I hope we have a good fight. Lee said to them in a very calm voice. The big three were standing around our fellow shinobi after they shrunk down to their size. Lee was doing a few stretches so he would nice and loose for the fight. The big three were around the group each with their weapons drawn, though Zeus looked hesitant to actually fight as he was looking at his son. Sasuke didn't even look remotely scared as he looked at the god of underworld in front of him. As for Naruto, he was being oblivious to the whole thing as he was concentrating on his seals. Yosh, I am ready to fight. Nay Sasuke, you don't mind if I fight the one standing in front of you as well, right? Lee asked. Was Sasuke's response. Lee just nodded thinking that it was no. So Lee turned to look at Poseidon that was standing in front of him with his trident directly pointed at his throat. Lee was scanning his opponent in front of him with his eyes. Mortal, stand down and tell us how you able to get to our home without the use of the elevator. Poseidon asked in Greek. Anyo, what did you say? Lee asked as he tilted his head to the side. He said that your youthfulness is weak and said that you will never defeat him. Naruto said with a snicker. Yosh, I must show him that my youth is strong. Lee yelled as his eyes were engulfed in fire and he disappeared from Poseidon's sight. Poseidon quickly followed him into another room so no one would interfere with their fight. Empty room. The two of them reappeared in an empty room that wasn't in use at the moment. Lee looked at Poseidon for a second and nodded to himself before he disappeared again with his speed and started running around Poseidon at almost impossible speeds. Poseidon narrowed his eyes as he was already channeling his powers into his body to track Lee's speed. Poseidon quickly moved his head to the side to dodge a punch from Lee and used his trident's shaft to quickly bend Lee's arm to lock it in place and used his body to flip him over his back to land in the ground. Poseidon raised his leg and quickly tried to stomp Lee in the head to stop him then and there, but was missed as Lee rolled out of the way. Lee watched as Poseidon's stomp shook the whole room violently. Poseidon continued to look at Lee as he was expertly twirling his trident and slowly walking towards him. Lee noted that there was a hole in the ground that went all the through the ground as there was a hole at the end showing clouds passing by. Poseidon watched to see that Lee looked like as though he was having fun. Lee was once again hopping from foot to foot. You know, compared to our world, your gravity is really weak. Lee said before charged at Poseidon in a burst of speed. The next thing Poseidon knew, Lee was already above him ready to drop kick him. Poseidon raised his trident and blocked the kick. The ground underneath him shook and he felt his body fall to one knee from the force of the blow. Poseidon pushed Lee of his trident. Lee flipped in the air and landed quietly in front of Poseidon. While Poseidon was raising himself off, he had to spin his body to the side to dodge the palm thrust aimed at his chest. Poseidon quickly swung his fist into Lee's chest with enough force to crush mountains. Lee's body flew through the air and crashed into the wall behind him. You are strong boy, I give you that, but you are no match for me. Poseidon said to him. Yosh, this is a good warm-up. Lee yelled out with enthusiasm as he pried himself out of the Lee shape indent from the wall. Now let us start the real fight, huh? Lee started to unlock his first two inner gates as he felt his body flow with more power than he had before. Poseidon raised an eyebrow as he pumped some more power into him to match Lee. The both of them stared at each other for a few seconds before they disappeared in an instant and thunderous sounds were being produced from hitting each other. Lee was throwing multiple punches and kicks at Poseidon that were being parried or blocked by Poseidon's trident. Lee was noticing though that Poseidon was able to keep up with him, though his reaction to was slow enough that it gave him a delay before he blocked. Lee waited for the right moment, before he broke through Poseidon's defense and struck him across his face. Poseidon's head snapped to the left from the sudden blow. Before he could recover, he was struck again from the other cheek. Poseidon quickly leaned back and used the butt of his trident to struck a hard blow into Lee's side. Poseidon then used that moment to kick Lee in the cheek and to propel himself back from Lee to give him some distance. Poseidon threw his trident at Lee while he was in the air. Lee saw the trident coming and had to twist his body to have it barely miss him. Lee also kicked the trident into the wall. As Lee landed, he raised his arms and crossed them as he saw Poseidon taking a deep breath. Lee braced himself as Poseidon let out a mighty roar and started to blast everything away and into the wall at tremendous speeds. Lee at first was able to stay in his spot, but after a few seconds he felt his feet slide back a few inches before his whole body was blown back into the wall. Lee thinking quickly landed feet first into the wall and was in a crouched position. As the roar lessened, used the strength of his legs to shoot up into the air and started spinning his body. Poseidon waited to see what was going to happen. Lee continued to spin till he was looking like a drill flying towards Poseidon. While Poseidon was watching this, he started to summon massive amounts of water around his body as he crouched low to get ready to attack Lee. Lee stopped spinning in the air as he opened another inner gate. Poseidon took that as his chance and thrusted both of his hands in front of him, causing massive water columns go straight at Lee's body. Lee watched the water fly straight at him and crash into him. Poseidon saw that the water crashed but noticed the body wasn't there as the water fell. Poseidon then crossed his arms in front of him as a dome of water surrounded him and he hardened it as Lee punched the dome. The water rippled as Lee's punch was almost all the way through. Poseidon looked behind him as he willed the water to shoot out high-speed water bullets. Lee quickly started to move his body around to block most of the water, but some still struck him in the chest and head. It felt like a Tsunade strength punch every time he was struck. Lee quickly jumped back a few feet so he could release another inner gate. Poseidon another burst of energy from Lee and he quickly channeled more energy to match Lee's. Let's take this to a more open area, shall we? Poseidon said before he disappeared quickly. Lee was following Poseidon's out of Mount Olympus and into the ocean. Poseidon had a smirk on his face as he thought that the mortal wouldn't be able to fight properly as they were out in the middle of the ocean. Well, he thought that before his jaw dropped as he saw Lee walking on water and his skin was red. Okay, that is just bullshit, Poseidon said as he was kicked in the face from Lee. Yosh. Less talking, more fighting, Lee yelled out. Throne room of Mount Olympus. Back in the throne room, Sasuke and Hades were both staring at Naruto and Zeus, who were both huddled together. Sasuke looked at Hades and just gave a look that said, "Is this normal?" Hades just shrugged as the both of them went back looking at Naruto and Zeus. Zeus crouched down and looked at the seals that Naruto was creating. Zeus put his master bolt on the ground next to him as he crouched down and took a closer look at the seals. "What is it that you are creating, Naruto?" Zeus said as he switched to Naruto's language unconsciously. "Oh cool, so you can understand us, that's one less seal I would have to make." Naruto said. "Of course I can understand you," Zeus said as he picked up one of the completed seals. "I am your father after all. So I see that your seal is making a translation seal, but for only your language. Why didn't you make one that was able to translate any language?" "I could, but that seal would need the constant use of chakra on the person to be able to continuously use it. This seal here is able to transfer the knowledge of our language to the person that activates it," Naruto said. "That is great, but wouldn't the rush of information damage the brain or leave them in a somewhat vegetable state till the brain can catch up?" Zeus questioned. "Unless the amount of chakra is used to activate isn't large enough to fry the brain whole," Naruto countered as he finished the last of the seals. "But what about the ones for people that don't have chakra? Wouldn't the foreign chakra entering the person be bad for them?" "Well, usually it would be unless it's from someone that is able to freely transfer chakra to a person without the consequences to their body." Zeus nodded as he and Naruto were talking more about the seals and see if they could improvement in some way. Naruto was too distracted on wanting to make the seal better that we didn't notice that he was talking with his dad. Naruto had a shadow clone appear behind him and ordered it to give one of the seals to Hades. Hades just stared at the clone that was walking up to him with a piece of paper at hand. Sasuke looked at Hades expectantly. Hades just raised an eyebrow as the clone offered the paper to him. Hades stood still as he was contemplating whether he should take it or not, and the clone just rolled its eyes. Hades smacked the in away as he didn't like stuff so close to his face. The clone narrowed its eyes before smacking the paper to Hades' forehead with enough force that would knock out a normal person. It didn't knock Hades out, but it made his head snap backwards as the paper stuck to his forehead. The clone sent a small pulse of chakra into the paper to activate it. Hades groaned as he tried to remove the paper from his forehead and he figured out that it wouldn't move. "What sort of magic is this?" Hades yelled out. The clone just disappeared as its job was done. Naruto and Zeus continued to ignore Hades' yelling and Sasuke just covered his eyes with his hand. As Hades continued to scream out profanity in Greek, Sasuke walked out of the room. When he passed by Naruto, he picked up 2 completed seals and left him with Zeus. Naruto gave a lazy wave as Sasuke left. As soon as Sasuke left them room, he leaned back slightly to dodge a pair of hunting knives that were aimed for his head. He raised an eyebrow as he looked to see 2 women in front of him. Well, one of them was looking ready to kill him as the other one was trying to talk to the one with the hunting knives in her hands. Sasuke sighed as he grabbed the hilt of his kusanagi. The women with the hunting knives started spinning her knives expertly. "You are going to die here, boy," Artemis said as she continued to spin her knives. "Now stay still so you cannot destroy this world anymore." "Artemis, you don't have to do this. He didn't even attack," Hera said, trying to reason with the goddess of the hunt. "That boy is going to die. Can't you see that he is going to just destroy everything like any other man?" Artemis as she stopped spinning her knives and readied them. "If you are going to attack," Sasuke said as he slowly drew his blade and channeled lighting chakra into it, "you better be ready to put your life on the line. How dare you raise your blade against me? Die!" Artemis yelled as she charged at Sasuke. Sasuke narrowed his eye as he charged at Artemis as well. When they both got close, their blades struck another, causing a loud shock wave as they blocked each other's attack. Sasuke looked bored as Artemis was trying to push him back with her strength. Sasuke pushed more of his lighting chakra into his blade, which caused to start spreading to Artemis's blades and shocking her. She gritted her teeth as she felt the electricity course through her body. She pushed herself back to gain some distance from him. Sasuke looked at Artemis as he just readied his blade for another attack. He silently made a shadow clone with the paper seals and mentally ordered it to hand the seal to the woman that is not fighting. Sasuke started putting lighting chakra into his sword again as he waited for the first move from Artemis. Soon both Sasuke and Artemis were clashing blades again at high speeds. The clone stood next to Hera and got her attention. Hera looked at the clone and saw that it was holding a piece of paper. Hera grabbed the paper and looked at it for a sec before recognizing what it was. "Oh, I don't need that as I know how to speak your language," Hera said as she switched languages easily. The clone just nodded and dispelled itself. Hera went back to watching Artemis and Sasuke fighting each other. She could track their movements easily as they were not really trying. Hera noticed that their attacks were all aimed to their vitals. Sasuke was using the flat end of his blade to block the strikes while Artemis was using the minimalist of movements to dodge the attacks. This should be interesting, maybe I should take this seriously a little bit, Sasuke thought to himself as he parried a thrust aimed to his heart. Let's see how she does when I up the speed of my attacks. After moving his head to the side to dodge the swing to his head, Sasuke started to go on the offensive. His swings were gradually getting faster. He started to lessen the amount of unnecessary movements in his swings. Artemis didn't notice it at first, till she had to move her body more on her dodging. Sasuke noticed this as well and capitalized on it as he was able to slash Artemis' hand. Artemis started to see red after that and yelled something in Greek that Sasuke assumed it was about cause some inexplicable harm on him. Oh well, more fun for him, he guessed. With Naruto. So, the guy with the blue fire on his head, he seems like he has a stick up his butt. Naruto pointed out as he finished the last seal. Hee yeah, that's my older brother and your uncle over there. Zeus said with a chuckle. He should be able to understand me right about now, Naruto said as he stood up and stretched. What do you mean, you insect? Hades asked in annoyance. And here I was hoping that it would make him a vegetable for a few hours. Zeus mumbled. Now that you can understand me, can you answer me a few questions, Flamehead? Naruto asked Hades. Oi, don't call me that, I have a name after all. Hades said. And that would be? Naruto asked. My name mortal is Hades, god of the under, Hades started. Hey, I only asked for your name, not your full title. Naruto interrupted. Zeus started to laugh as Hades' hair looked like a small nuke exploded on the top of his head. Hades for his part was on the verge on smiting Naruto. He was about to say something when Sasuke's body flew through the door. Sasuke flipped in the air and landed on his feet and stabbed his sword into the ground to stop him. Sasuke used his sword as a pivot to flip over Artemis that followed him into the throne room. Naruto just watched this all happen. Hades stopped his yelling to watch and was silently rooting for Artemis to win, and Zeus was just covering his face with one of his hands. Sasuke ignored them as he took a deep breath as channeled chakra into his mouth and held his breath for a few seconds before shooting out a giant fireball at Artemis. Artemis's eyes widened at the fireball and rolled to the side to dodge the fireball. Sasuke landed softly onto the ground as he picked up his Kasugai and put it back in its scabbard. Sasuke just casually walked back towards Hades. Artemis was seeing red at the moment. She has never felt more humiliated, right, and it was all caused by some boy. Artemis's eyes were covered by her bangs as she started to gather her godly powers into her. Zeus saw this and gave an annoyed sigh. Unless you two want to get incinerated, someone knock her out before she releases her godly form. Zeus said calmly. Sasuke just shrugged as Naruto raised an eyebrow before he just walked to a nearby wall and leaned up against it. Zeus raised a questioning eyebrow at them. You can stop her. I don't feel like dealing with another angry woman today, thank you very much. Naruto said. Was Sasuke's only response. Zeus pinched the bridge of his nose at that. He switched to Greek as he commanded Artemis to calm down. Artemis was still drawing more of her godly power, seeing as her body was growing bigger and her body started to be surrounded by a golden glow. Zeus said it again with more force as he raised his master bolt at her. Artemis glared at Zeus for a few seconds before she stopped gathering her powers and started to leave, leaving a fist imprint into the door. I wonder what Lee is doing? Naruto questioned out loud. He soon got his answer as Lee's unconscious body was dropped in the middle of the throne room as a bleeding and badly bruised Poseidon came limping in the room. What in chaos's name happened to you? Zeus asked his brother. That freak in green is one tough bastard to fight. Even in my domain I had a hard time. I had to almost completely drown him to stop him. Poseidon said as he spat out some of his golden blood. It couldn't have that bad, right? Zeus asked him. If not that bad, you mean he was able to fight while standing on water, having enough strength and power to blast almost any water wall hardened by my powers and being able to fight in water as though he was still on land for long periods of time. I had to make sure he was so deep in the ocean that the pressure was too much for him to hold his breath any longer as he tried to swim back to the surface. Those people are monsters in their own right. Poseidon explained. Now, if you will excuse me, I'm going to see Apollo for some healing. He broke a couple of ribs, fractured my right arm, left leg and dislocated my left arm, and I think he made a dent into my skull.
Zeus watched his brother limp away. Zeus turned around to see Naruto poking his unconscious friend with a stick and Sasuke was looking at Hades. Zeus just put his master bolt away. Zeus was about to just call it a day and retire to his temple when he saw his wife coming. Hera, did you need something? Zeus asked in the language that the shinobi spoke. I wanted to see my son before something else happens to cause him to leave, Hera said quickly before she pushed Zeus to the side roughly. Naruto stopped poking his friend as he saw a woman walking up to him. He stood up and pulled out one of his seals for her, but she just shook her head. Hera stood in front of Naruto, taking in his features that he had gotten from both her and her husband from their time there. Her eyes started to water as she continued to stare at him before she enveloped him in a hug. Hera was crying softly as she was hugging him. Naruto didn't know what to do as he just stood still. Naruto noticed that the woman hugging her was starting to slowly change her appearance before he had a small gasp as it was the image of his mother. My baby boy, look at you. Hera said as she held his face in her hands gently. The tears flowing down her face as she looked at her son. You look so much like your father. Naruto couldn't say anything as he was kind of conflicted on how he was supposed to react. On the one side, he was wanting to shove the woman away from him and start yelling at her. The other was him wanting to calm the woman down and ask her a few questions. Sasuke watched all this with a neutral expression as he really didn't care at the moment and wanted to go home. Who are you? Naruto asked even though he kind of knew who this woman was. You probably already guessed just from my appearance, but I'm your mother Kushina Uzumaki, although in this world I am Hera, the goddess of family and marriage. Hera said as she wiped the tears away. You may look like my mother, but you don't feel like you are. Naruto said as he gently pushed Hera off him. Naruto, Hera said quietly. Son, Zeus said as he unconsciously changed into Minato. You too, you may have my father's looks, but you don't feel like my father. Both of my parents I have met and felt when I was battling the Kyuubi in me, they held the love and feelings of a parent, not you too, Naruto said. But we are your parents, Hera said all too quickly. Naruto shook his head as he went to pick up Lee and went to Sasuke. Hades stood in front of Naruto to block his way. The two of them stared at each other looking as though a fight was going to break out. Naruto held no emotion as he stared and Hades was looking to see if there was anything that he could use but saw none. Hades nodded his head with his eyes closed and stepped out of his way. Let's head back, Sasuke. I have to report to the Hokage on what we just found, Naruto told Sasuke quietly. Sasuke nodded as he opened both of his eyes and started to open a rift again. You do know after we travel back we won't be able to travel until my eye recharges after 4 full days, Sasuke said. Naruto nodded as he watched the rift open. Naruto was about to step into the rift before he felt a hand on his shoulder. Naruto tensed his body. He handed Lee's unconscious body to Sasuke and told him to leave it open for him for a few minutes after they have crossed over. Sasuke didn't say anything as he already started heading through the rift. Naruto looked over his shoulder with his bangs covering his eyes to see Zeus, Minato grabbing his shoulder. Oi! Naruto said looking over his shoulder. Is there something you need? Naruto, son, don't leave, Zeus said. Oh, Naruto said quietly. Tell me why I shouldn't. Because your family is here. Me, your mother, your brothers and sisters are all here, Zeus said. No, they're not. Naruto said quietly as he saw flashed of his friends and everyone in Konoha appear in his mind. My family is in Konoha. What, know your family? Zeus started again before he was interrupted. I said my family is in Konoha, not here. Naruto turned around to look at Zeus fully, his eyes red and his whisker marks looking darker as he started to unleash some killing intent that made the surrounding gods around him freeze. You want me to be with my real family, right? Then convince me right here. Right now. Zeus took a hesitant step back as the pressure of the killing intent continued to rise. The image of a demonic fox started to appear behind Naruto. Zeus and Hades started to sweat some as the pressure continued. What's wrong? Convince me, Naruto said as he raised his arm to the side. Zeus didn't know what to do, his body was frozen in place. He felt something that he thought he wouldn't have felt ever again after the war. Fear. Zeus's looks changed back into his god form as he held his master bolt tightly as tried to form words. Naruto continued to unleash his killing intent of them. He knew in his head that they are his family from the information that he had gotten from Percy. But his heart was telling him that they weren't his real family. People like Tsunade, Kakashi, hell even Jiraiya were more like family than these two people claiming to be his parents. He may have some resentment to them and he should be at the moment, but right now he couldn't. He wanted to see if they will do something to show they are willing to fight to have their son back like any parent would. Naruto, calm yourself. As much as you want to test them and yourself for that matter, now isn't the time. I'm going to cut my chakra from you so we can get back. The Kyuubi sat in Naruto's head. Naruto felt the Kyuubi's chakra slowly stop flowing through his body. He slowly let up the killing intent till it was gone and he gave a disappointing sigh. I let my anger guide my actions again. I still need to work on that. Sorry about that. Anyways, I'll be going now. I'll come back again in the near future. So ya ne, Naruto said as he turned and started walking through the rift. Also. Naruto said the last part to himself but Zeus read his. He read, next time, I might be here to stay. Zeus gave a small hopeful smile as he watched his son go through the rift and closed behind him. Konoha Sasuke was the first to pass through the rift. Sasuke just dropped Lee's body onto the ground and just started to walk away. He already charged the rift with enough chakra to stay open by itself for a few minutes the most. As soon as Sasuke was gone, Lee started to stir. A painful groan escaped his as Lee sat up and held a bloody hand to his head. What happened? Lee said to himself. He looked around to see that he was back in Konoha and that the rift was still open. Then it came back to him. Oh, that's right, I lost. Lee closed his eyes before clapping his hands together and got up shakily. Lee clenched his fist as he made a promise to himself to fight that water guy again and this time win. Lee saw that Naruto walked through the rift before it closed on itself. Naruto-kun. How are you, my youthful friend? As you can see, I have failed in showing my youthfulness was better. Lee said as he wiped some blood off him till he noticed something. You seem troubled, my friend. What's wrong? Oh yeah, just something's going on my mind. Naruto said distractedly. Lee, you should really go see Tsunade to look at your wounds. Or let Sakura check you out. Yosh. I shall, but remember, my youthful friend, if you need someone to talk to, your friends are here for you. Lee said before he started running towards the hospital. Naruto watched his friend leave till he couldn't be seen anymore. Naruto looked up into the sky and saw it started to glow orange. He nodded to himself before he shushined to his father's head. He appeared just in time to see the sun starting to set. He sat down to watch it as he replayed what happened before he came back. He was confused on what he should do. He finds that his parents are alive and well. He also found out that his real parents are not exactly like they were like when he met their chakra echoes when he was confronting the Kyuubi beforehand. He also learned about some of the things that his parents have done in the past that made them less respectable to him from the information gained from Percy. What do you think I should do, Kurama? Naruto asked as the Kyuubi appeared next to him looking out into the sunset as well. In my opinion, you should just not come back to that world and never forgive your parents. Kurama said with his tails waving lazily. Though I know that it isn't you at all. So knowing you, you are going back, aren't you? Naruto shook his head in amusement. Leave it to the Kyuubi to be able to know what he is thinking. You are right though. I am considering on going back. But gaining any respect for them, that is going to take them a long while to earn from me. The Kyuubi nodded in agreement. The both of them just continued to watch the sunset and illuminate the village till they both decided to go home. The Kyuubi hopped onto Naruto's shoulder and started to fade back into Naruto as he headed back to his home. Hopefully tomorrow his head would be much clearer. Next day it was a new day and it looked like a perfect day for everyone to be outside to have fun and enjoy the gorgeous weather. Well, it would have been very enjoyable if there wasn't any boulders being tossed everywhere and someone yelling at the top of their lungs. Naruto, get your ass back here so we can put your new prosthetic arm. Sakura yelled out as she was throwing large boulders at Naruto, who was running away. But I hate hospitals. Naruto yelled out as he was running away. Savior of the world, and yet you still hate hospitals. Is it too late to leave you? The Kyuubi said in his head sarcastically. Naruto didn't respond to him as he yelped in fear as he dodged another boulder aimed at him. Everyone in the area didn't even bat an eyelash as they all chalked it up as another ninja thing. Naruto continued to speed past everyone as Sakura started throwing bigger boulders at him. Naruto didn't even notice he was running right into Tsunade with her fist back. Naruto didn't have time to respond before he felt the full force of a Tsunade-strength chakra-enhanced punch to his face. Naruto's body flipped in the air and landed head first into the ground. Naruto groaned and was about to pick himself up, before his head was met with another punch into the ground, causing his head to go in deeper and knocking him out cold. Sakura came in to see the Naruto-shaped hole into the ground and sighed. Why can't he be a normal person and just go to the hospital peacefully, right, sensei? Sakura asked as she picked up and slung him over her shoulder. If he was normal then he wouldn't be Naruto. Tsunade said as she stretched. Besides, it gives me a reason to be out of that office. You just say that since you hate doing paperwork just like the Hokages before you. Sakura said with a sweat drop. Tsunade waved her off and they both of them headed towards the hospital so they can give our blonde hero his new arm. Hospital. Few hours later, Naruto let out a loud groan as he started to stir. He didn't feel like getting up, so he just stayed laying there and had his right hand to cover his already closed eyes. Wait, right hand? Naruto's eyes opened immediately to see that he had a white hand was indeed covering his eyes at the moment. Naruto started to close and squeeze the hand to see if he can feel anything at all, and he felt a slight squeezing feeling. Naruto sat up and continued open and close his hand to get used to it, and he heard the door open. He saw that Tsunade was walking in while reading clipboard in hand. Ah, Naruto, I see that you are getting used to your new arm. Tsunade said as she was writing stuff down on the clipboard. Yeah, it feels weird though, Ba-chan. Like I know it is there, and yet it feels like it's not. Naruto said as he continued flexing his hand. Tsunade nodded. Yes, that happens when an amputee gets their new limb. Though the curious thing was what when we attached the arm, it seemed that Kurama's chakra encased it with his chakra and it got rid of the scar from the surgical attachment, and he also was able to attach the nerve endings that were still usable after your fight with Sasuke. There wasn't many, so that is the cause of the slight sense of touch when you flex. We were about to set in the artificial chakra pathways in the new arm. Though you will have to make sure that you don't pump too much chakra through the arm unless you want to see it explode from the overload. Knowing you know though, you're going to do it anyways, so as a precaution, I suggest that you put a seal on the arm to reinforce and regrow that arm as you manage to get it damaged enough for it to start breaking apart. Though you will need to come back to reset the chakra pathways. Tsunade explained. She looked up her clipboard to see that Naruto had a glazed look in his eyes. Tsunade just shook her head and light bonked Naruto on the head with her clipboard. What I was listening, I promise. Naruto said as he shook his head. Sure you were. As I know that repeating it would be a waste of breath, I'll keep it simple. Put seals on your new arm so that whenever it's damaged or destroyed it will be able to reassemble itself and come back. When it does so, we will be able to reset your chakra paths in that arm. Oh, why didn't you say it like that, Ba-chan? Naruto said as he stood up from the table he was on. You know where my shirt and jacket went? It's over there on the counter. Go put them on and meet me and Sakura in the next room so we can begin on setting the chakra pathways. Tsunade ordered before she left. Naruto nodded and put on his shirt and looked at his jacket and decided that he didn't need to wear it and tied it around his waist. He headed over to the next room and saw Sakura washing her hands as Tsunade was putting her hair in a ponytail.
They waved Naruto over and he went to them. He sat on the chair and raised his arm to them. Tsunade and Sakura both nodded to each other and raised their hands and filled them with medical chakra. Sakura's hands were blue and Tsunade's were green and they both placed them over the white arm as they started putting the chakra pathways in his prosthetic arm.
It was a few hours later when they were finished. Naruto looked at his hand as Sakura wiped the built-up sweat on her brows. Tsunade started writing on Naruto's medical clipboard and wrote some notes down. Okay Naruto, we are going to need you to pump some of your chakra into your new arm slowly. Since we just set them, we need to wait a few seconds for your healing factor to finish up. Tsunade said as she was writing stuff. Naruto nodded as he just rotated his hand and few times and flexed it to make sure he could move it properly. After the few seconds Sakura gave Naruto a nod to start pumping chakra. Naruto opened his hand flat and started to make the Rasengan. Golden chakra started to gather into the center of his palm and started to make a tiny sphere. As he continued to pump more, the sphere grew bigger and bigger. Tsunade was taking notes on her observation. As Naruto continued to pour more chakra, the arm started to engulf itself in golden chakra. Sakura raised an eyebrow at that but said nothing. Tsunade was taking detailed notes on what she saw. Naruto continued on, but he started to feel a strain in the arm as the sphere started to grow larger than his head. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he continued. As the sphere grew Naruto felt the arm started to feel cracks started to form in his hand. He stopped the flow before he did some serious damage to his arm. As soon as the chakra dispersed, the golden chakra around his arm receded back into his body to reveal from the center of the palm. There was a crack down the middle of the hand and small fissures were stemming from it. That wasn't a lot of chakra that I used. Maybe just a little under enough to start making a Rasen shuriken. Naruto thought to himself. Kurama, is there a way for you to be able to change the chakra pathways enough to be able to handle the output on how much chakra I use? Yes, but that will take a while for me to do, maybe a week, 2 at the most. Kurama said in his mind as. Naruto nodded and told Tsunade and Sakura on what the Kyuubi said. Tsunade and Sakura had a few concerns about that, but in the end they trusted Naruto's judgment on it and they gave him a bottle of pills for whenever the arm started to grow some small tree bark on it till his body full merges with it. Naruto nodded and got a full roll of bandages to wrap his arm and started heading on his way home. Before he left a hospital he remembered that the 3 Greeks were still here. He decided to go visit them to see how they were doing. When he found the room, he heard people talking and he stopped from opening it and put his ear to the door to listen. So you guys are leaving tomorrow, I take it? Shikamaru said through the door. Yes, the 2 of us have to return to maintain the order of our domains and this young boy over here has to return to Kame to receive punishment for sneaking on a quest that originally didn't belong to him, Athena said. In my defense, it was Zeus that told me to go, Percy said, trying to lessen the punishment he might get. Ignore him. Back on track, what are your thoughts on Naruto joining us on the return home? Athena asked. In all honesty, I really don't want him to go, but at the same time I really wouldn't want to be one of the reasons on him not going back to be with his family. Shikamaru said at first. Though knowing him, he will go with you, but won't leave this world forever. He will most likely want to come back like every other week or so. You seem so sure he will join us tomorrow, Athena said. It's Naruto after all. Shikamaru said. Naruto stepped back as they started talking about other things. Naruto put his hands in his pockets and started his way back towards him home. He still had a lot of things to decide before tomorrow, but one thing for sure was that Naruto was not going there alone. He knew if he did, he would cause so much chaos and trouble for everyone. He would most likely cause some kind of catastrophe on a daily basis that he would be kicked back into Konoha and be banned for life. So he needed someone responsible, someone level-headed. Maybe Lee would be a good pick. Everyone in both dimensions had a cold shiver run down their backs as Naruto thought that. Oh, their futures are screwed. The end. Now we will see you in the next video.